what? I'm not gonna lie. I was right about to say, wow, we actually got through an intro without StreamYard messing up, and then right at the end, literally fumbled the ball at the two. So we almost had a perfect intro there. But ladies and gentlemen, how you guys doing today? As you can tell, it is not Monday night, but we are here for a very special show. We are here for a special show. We're going to talk about the best and worst movies of the entire year. And I had to think to myself, you know what? I have to find some of the best film critic friends that I know, and I've got these group of lovely individuals here with us here tonight to talk about the movies that we hated, movies that we absolutely loved this year. Let's go ahead and start from the top and make our way down. Our good buddy, all the way somewhere in nowhere, Illinois, as I like to call it, our good buddy Nickweiser is here. How you doing, Nick?
Right outside of Chirac, because I know I'm gladly not part of that no more. But hey, happy to be here. Pleasure to meet all the other faces on the panel: Christian, Sarah, Rob, Epic, Mike. I met you in Florida. You may not remember. Obviously, that was a wild weekend, so probably a little bit of a blur. But happy to be here. Jacob, thank you for inviting me. I'm definitely gonna be looking forward to talk about what was good, and then of course, what was bad. But I think there's gonna be a surprise under what was surprisingly good, at least on my end, because every now and then there's stuff that comes out as good, but it gets overshadowed or barely even promoted, and that's the unfortunate part, because it feels like in Hollywood nowadays, there's like a thing about not promoting original stuff, and that's really unfortunate. So we'll get to that though. But thank you for having me. I'm ready to go.
And joining us from somewhere that's even more dangerous than Chicago, also called Planned Parenthood, is our good buddy Rob Motto. How you doing today, Rob?
I'm doing good. I'm doing good. It's fine. I'm perfectly safe. So 2022 is not a good year. But no matter whether it's been a good year or a bad year,
movies or just in general.
Take your pick. No, but I'm always happy to talk about movies. At end of the year discussion, what's been the best, what's been the worst. So happy to be here with y'all.
All right. And then joining us for the first time on this channel, our good buddy all the way from the Epic verse and Geeks and Gamers Diversity Hire, self-proclaimed Epic Mike. How you doing tonight?
How's it going, man? Yeah, I mean, you got to let people know what your job is, and so the best thing you can do is tell them you're a diversity hire. Give them what they want, It very quickly becomes a problem. Like, well, I saw you're a Geeks and Gamers Diversity Hire. I'm like, yeah, congratulations, you read my profile.
Yeah.
But yeah, man, glad to be here. I appreciate the response. I told you I was going to be running a little late. I was literally like not even 10 minutes ago stuck underneath my house fixing a leaky pipe.
You've been detailing your wars against the spiders over there for the last few days. How's that been going?
Today we wrapped up the fro really tight, so I was like picking it out like as I was running to get my computer turned on and everything. So no, man, I appreciate it. And yeah, 2022, man, that was quite the year, So.
Yeah, to say the least here. And then also joining us here tonight is our good buddy, Mr. Christian Toto, the one who started a lot of our adventures in the movies. How you doing today, Christian?
I'm great. Every year I have a lot of fun compiling the worst movies, and I take little notes and I jot on my Google Calendar. And every year getting the best of list is harder and harder, and 2022 was no exception.
Oh, yeah. I feel like, especially with me, and we'll talk about this as we get started here, but I felt like I've started watching a lot more foreign films over the last few years. So I think I probably may have watched maybe about 20-something South Korean films, a handful of other films across the region. If I didn't have those movies, my top 10 list would be a lot harder to come up together. Like, I'll be like scrounging and put like 3.5 out of 5s on my list, which is like, is this really some of the best movies of the year that we have to offer? So we'll get into that as we get deep into our discussion here. And then last but certainly not least, our soft-spoken gangster over here, Sarah Hargett, a.k.a. Menace to Society. How you doing today, Sarah?
I'm looking forward to being criticized and made fun of for my views.
Yeah, our good buddy Rick wasn't able to join us because he had a prior engagement. So yeah, Sarah is filling in for the role of how can that possibly be on your top 5 best movies of the year list so far this year. So
also the female perspective.
Oh yeah, there we go. Like I said, we gotta have our diversity quotas on here. So we have a couple of black guys here. We have one girl. We have one half quarter-ish Mexican guy here. Question mark? And speaking of diversity, let's go ahead and introduce one of our final guests here tonight, who just jumped off of his own movie stream, joining us for our stream here tonight. Our good buddy Meffistoe. How you doing today?
I'm good. I'm filling in for the Jewish representation here.
Oh yeah. So we, like I said, this is the most diverse best and worst show on YouTube right now. So let's go ahead and give a celebration for that. Joining us in our chat tonight are some of our loyal viewers here. Duke Nukem, who's always here joining us in the chat. I don't know if that's Polish or German or something like that. He always has some weird intro to give us here tonight, but he says that he's watching this for his Russian allies. He's joining us here tonight. Al By Feelings is also joining us here for 2022. It's been a rough year for films. I'll ask you guys about that here in a second. And then, of course, a good buddy, Alex vs. Evil, who is also here joining us in the chat tonight. So thank you for joining us here. So let me ask you guys this, because I felt like ever since the turn of, I guess you could say, this decade, it's been harder and harder to find good movies out there. Like 2019 was a great year for film. Like I remember Ford versus Ferrari. I remember the Englishman, not the Englishman, the Irishman. I remember Joker being a very, very good movie. Like I was looking down the list, I was like, wow, what was like Mission Impossible, like somewhere like 5 or 6. I was like, oh yeah.
28. That was Fallout, because that was right after, I think a few weeks after Infinity War came out. That was with the one with Henry Cavill as the villain, and a very good villain, might I add.
They probably should have been killed off, by the way. But,
and now we know why the mustache stayed, because Tom Cruise has more power than the Justice League does.
All right. But yeah, I mean, we had a great year there. Then 2020 hit. 2020 was a very, very rough year to try to find any good movies. There just wasn't that many releases to begin with. 2021 was a much improved year, not by much, but it was somewhat improved. So let me go ahead and ask you guys this right off the gate. Did you find that 2022 was a better year than 2021, or do you feel like it was worse, on par? I'll start with Christian. What did you think about this year?
The same, if not worse. I mean, I agree. 2019 was a bit of a standout for me too. But yeah, I find that I enjoy a lot of films, but the fact that so few really jump out at me as best of the year potential. I mean, I have to dumb down my curve. So there would be a few films that I'll mention tonight that were very good and solid, but I don't think they deserve to be on a top 10 list, but I got to put something on there. So you got to fill the quotas there. But yeah, I think we're in a kind of a rough spot for Hollywood right now. And looking at some of the titles for 2023, I'm not extremely optimistic that it's going to be a much better year this year, but we'll see.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff coming out, but only few that I'm actually excited for. Sarah, I know you had a little issue with trying to get to movies this year. You could blame your governor for that one, but how did you feel about the year versus what you had to deal with last year?
Overall, better, just because I saw more movies and I didn't go to the theater as much. That's true, but like I did see like at least 10 more movies, and I agree with Christian that it was like not very memorable movies. But there were more, like, I rewatched more movies that I have in my top 10 this year than last year. Last year, the movie that I rewatched the most was Free Guy. And that wasn't even, like, that was in the middle. And I just ended up liking that. And I didn't like any of my movies that I really rated, like, 4 stars. They were just like, oh, yeah, that was good. But I have no interest in seeing it again. So, I don't know. Overall, better.
Rob, I know this year when we started our movie stream, they kind of forced you to like get out and go to the theaters more than you had in the past. And I know you're a bigger fan of like older movies, but you did see a lot of newer stuff. What was kind of your overall thoughts on the year on 2022?
Well, as a general rule, 6 or 7 years ago, I said I want to see 20 movies in theaters in person. I couldn't list 20 movies I wanted to see, in 2022, looking at the slate. And so but I was patient. I went out, I saw these movies, and most of them are not even worth mentioning. I can't even say they're memorable in a bad way. A lot of them are just really bland. But looking back at 2021, we had Belfast, The Last Duel, Licorice Pizza, The Card Counter. I mean, it kind of is the same, same bleeding over into this year. The last 2 years have been really just very bland. And I haven't found a whole lot I've been really excited about, or even that I found mildly interesting. So I'm hoping 2023 is much better, but the last couple of years have been really rough for moviegoers. And I'm picky anyway. Like in 2019, I would, sort of criticize something like Joker, but if that came out today, it might win Best Picture because the quality is so lacking.
Yeah.
Now, for the rest of you guys, I know you guys are content creators, so you might not get this chance to see as many new movies as some of us do. But what was kind of your thoughts on some of the year? I guess we can start with Mike, and we'll roll our way down. What is your thoughts on the year of 2022? Is there any movies that kind of stepped out to you, or is it just like, where we're in a down point? Where, basically, to be honest, after 2020, when so many stuff didn't get released because of the pandemic, movie theaters are really struggling to give you any kind of content right now. So, how'd you feel about the year?
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, I usually try to see a lot of movies. I try to see as many movies as I can in a year.
Yeah.
This year specifically, and last year kind of hammered it out of me. 2020 was like a barren wasteland. And you're just like plucking for anything you could find. 2021 was kind of rough, but it had its high points, and I kind of feel the same way about 2022. There was some, I think, standout films, but I do agree overall the quality of films across the board are just down. It's just down. So things that would have normally been acceptable are now just like they stand out as like really really high points on the year, and things that like normally would have never even gotten made are getting made and are even sometimes getting critical acclaim by critics and moviegoers and stuff. So I don't know. I think it's a bigger problem than just what happened with the pandemic. I think the pandemic just kind of exposed the transition that Hollywood and filmmaking in general is going towards. And then when you start doing things like making your own stuff, you start going, man, like I didn't realize how bad some of this stuff really was until you start looking behind the scenes and going, oh, some of this isn't even necessary to make a good film. So, yeah.
Now, I know, Meffistoe, I know you're all the way on the other side of our country, not our country, on our planet, actually, but
on the planet.
Yeah, but what was kind of your outlook on the year of movies? They have 2022.
To be fair, in 2022, even in 2021, we were quite open as opposed to you guys, but there was not a lot of, let's say, movement towards getting people to go to the movies. A lot of the movies that did make money were movies that were a spectacle. Even if you consider Top Gun to be a spectacle movie, yeah, that's a spectacle movie. Doctor Strange, Thor, Avatar 2, it's just big spectacle, big bomb, but not a lot of substance, as opposed to, I don't know, Everything Everywhere All at Once that came out this year. I just saw it this week. I was really glad that I caught it on a streaming service rather than watching it in the theater, because if I would have watched it in the theater, it would have probably been with my missus, and we would be not happy at all. It literally took us 2 nights to go through the movie.
I will say, because we're definitely going to mention that film throughout the course of this night. That's definitely a film where it can go either way in your viewing experience. You're either going to love it or you're either going to hate it. And that opinion probably flip-flops at least 7 times throughout the ending of this film as well. So that's a movie we'll bring up here tonight. Real quick, before we get started, I want to start off with Nick. But first, I want to ask Christian a question, because I know I've seen a whole lot of movies this year, but I feel like you're the only one who's probably seen more movies. So how many movies in total have you seen this year? Because I've seen 127 that were released this year in all kinds of countries. So,
I never count. I don't know. I just kind of watch as many as I can. And I've actually missed a couple. I haven't seen Tar. I haven't seen Till. And those are sort of assumed to be among the better movies of the year. Yeah. And I think one of the interesting things I've found this year is that some of the movies that are kind of promoted as Oscar bait just aren't good or mediocre. Like I think The Whale is a mediocre movie with one great performance by Brendan Fraser. And then you mentioned Everyone Everywhere. I can never get the title right, so I'm just maybe I just call it EE. I watched it with my wife a couple of nights ago because I missed it in theaters. We shut it off after 50 minutes. My wife was like, I'm out. I'm like, I will go back to watch it again, but I was not enamored with it, and I was rather shocked by that. So I think
exactly where we stopped. Exactly the same point.
I want to give it a full chance, but I feel like there are certain movies that are foisted upon us, like, okay, here they come. Here come the Oscar movies. And they're not necessarily better or worse than anything else. It's just they have this sort of that on arrival, they're minted as you need to respect them. And I also think it's funny when movies that have that branding come in and no one talks about them, like Causeway with Jennifer Lawrence and Bardo, which is really self-indulgent. But it's like, here's an Oscar bait movie, and then no one cares, no one talks about it, and everyone ignores it, which is comical to me.
even like the Oscar bait movies, because usually December is like that last couple of weeks in December is where everyone throws in their Oscar bait, and that's supposed to be, oh, this is the best movies of the year right here. And
Yeah.
then this year is kind of like, I mean, what we got like Babylon and like Avatar too. So it's like, was that supposed to be like the best of this year? Yeah, it wasn't a very, very good year there. But quick little shout out to our boys in the chat. Spencer from Bounding in the Comics. Hope everything's going well with you, who's joining us, listening to us right now. And our good buddy Cole Classic Cage, who's also in the chat listening to us as well. So yeah, 127. I actually counted because it was a lot. But I want to go ahead and get started off with Nick. Let's go ahead and get the good out of the way. Let's have a little bit of positivity here for our stream today. So we're going to talk about the better movies of the year. We're going to talk about some of our best. Now, some of you guys I know have lists of at least your top 5 best movies of the year. Nick, I just want you to go ahead and give us what you thought was some of your better movies of 2022, what you liked, and clearly you have a couple of things that may surprise us. So go for it, bro.
Yes, sir. So obviously, I'm going to go with the obvious Waters Wet one. I love Top Gun Maverick. Now, I've seen some contrarian arguments saying that it's the same film, and I definitely do not agree with that. I'd say there's similarities and callbacks that bring to mind the first film, because this story is more of Maverick coming to grips with him being an aging character rather than him being the main man. He's got to pass it on, and that was not what that was about in the first movie. Obviously, there's similar relationships. Obviously Goose, son of Goose, with Rooster, but I feel like the callbacks were appropriate and didn't feel like it was there just to sell the movie on nostalgia. I actually felt like it was a nice written, coherent story, and it was lots of fun, and it was so freaking Americana too, which was nice to see, because it almost feels like that's like a thing that's not allowed in movies. And once again, it just goes to show you once again the power of Cruise. Just like Henry Cavill's mustache stays, the flag stays as well. So it's like it's like there's Hollywood rules and there's like Tom Cruise rules, and luckily he hit out of the park with with Maverick. And I honestly didn't think he was, because like as much as I love Cruise, I'm not gonna be one of those guys who's gonna worship everything an actor does, because to me that kind of takes away from seeing something for what it is versus what you want it to be. But I really enjoyed it. I saw it twice, especially when I saw opening night. I saw one of those super gigantic screens where the seat shakes and all that stuff. And they gave you the goodies, the poster, and the Top Gun popcorn bin. Of course, I ate all that up. That added to it, but it was a really great, fun movie, and it made it work. The fact, because if you think about it, most times when there's a sequel, it usually is because the movie from before that sets it up for a sequel. No one needed or asked for a Top Gun sequel, but we got it anyways, and they managed to make it work, because usually there's like a loose end that's like, okay, hey, here's just in case we get a sequel. Top Gun didn't have any loose ends. It wasn't like, oh, hey, they're set up for a sequel. It felt like a one and done. And the fact that they were all able to pull it off without having any loose ends to catch up on from a previous movie, I feel like it makes it that much more impressive. So that one I liked. And even though it wasn't the greatest movie, I feel like it was a good, solid movie. And I feel like it's worthy of the recognition in that particular industry is Sonic the Hedgehog 2. And I say it because we all know what happened in 2019 with the controversy with Sonic the Hedgehog when there was the fan complaints about how the character looked. Yeah. And I thought it was actually a really stand-up move when the studio's just like, you know what, we hear your complaints. We're going to fix this, and we're going to push the movie back 4 months. And in Hollywood, that's almost unheard of, because now, anytime in the last 10 years you hear about complaints, it's just a vocal minority. It's a vocal minority. Yeah. And I remember when that first movie came out, I thought to myself, okay, I better go see this damn movie just to prove a point. Even if I don't like it, just to say, oh, hey, you listen to what I said and what ours said. I'm going to go out and support this and give, my paying money to see it. And luckily a sequel happened, and I thought the first one was good. And the second one was good because not only did it bring in more characters that for the franchise, but even had some of the music. And there's even like a maze part in the movie that plays just like a video game. And of course, more set up for a sequel for added characters from the lore. So if you know the video games, or if you know the 90s cartoon, or even the comic books, you benefit from this. And adults can enjoy it, and kids, which is always a big bonus. So, and my 9-year-old, she loves Sonic, so that's a big bonus when dad and daughter can really enjoy this movie. And then one other one I really liked, and it's from the horror genre, is called Barbarian. That was actually good. Now, I'm not the most well versed in horror. Like my horror movies, I like Halloween, because of course, who does it as far as horror? and I like The Shining. Obviously, those are obvious safe choices, but I feel like Barbarian really was definitely not what I expected. I'm like, and then there's that really random curveball that happens where it makes you feel like, are you watching a completely different movie? I'm like, am I watching? I had to like make sure like my player is still operating because I thought I was watching a different movie. But the way it flowed and made that happen, I was like, damn, this is actually good. And didn't feel like it was really dwelling on the typical horror tropes. And once you actually see what was going on in the greater picture, like, oh, damn, this is kind of crazy, bro. This is kind of crazy. So, yeah, I really enjoy that. And I thought the ending was great, too, of it. So, yeah, that's what that was what stood out the most for me as far as 2022 goes.
All right, we've got some pretty solid picks on that list there. Mephisto, I want to ask you, what did stand out in your mind as some of the better pictures that we've seen in 2022?
I'm not gonna go over Top Gun Maverick because that's my favorite movie of this year that came out, and
probably have a lot of people's favorite movie.
If I could reiterate, it's a better movie, better story than Top Gun. To be honest, it's fuller. I don't know how to tell you because you got the three different angles. One, it's Maverick with like the woman, so Jennifer Connelly. One is his relationship with Rooster, and one his relationship with the crew, and then even another one is the whole mission where in Top Gun you didn't have any mission, you didn't have any guidelines or railway that they're gonna go on. It's just, oh, we've been recruited to something. The only thing I can think about, because my top 5 is completely empty, is a movie that I caught on Netflix. It's called Day Shift with Jamie Foxx. Not an amazing movie, but it's done. It's a movie about a dad his job is fighting vampires, and he has an ex-wife and a girl, and he's trying to earn enough money to get out of the business and take the girl away or be at a better, safer place. And, not comedy ensue, but actions ensue. And I thought it was another great take and a different take on the whole vampire genre, which has been done to death at this point.
Yeah.
Just one of the highlights. I really want to say Bullet Train, but I still haven't seen it. My wife did on the plane. She had a business trip. She watched it on a plane, and she said, "You're definitely gonna love this movie." And I still haven't gotten around to watch it.
I'll say this. I know there's probably people who like Bullet Train a lot better than I did. I personally didn't care much for it, but I did hear people say some positive things about it. So to each his own as far as that goes. Mike, before I go to you, I wanted to actually address something that Duke Nukem said. He asked here, is the film gory? He was talking about Barbarian. If you do want a very bloody, gory horror movie that's actually pretty solid, I'm not sure how many guys I've actually seen Terrifier 2 this year, but that's pretty much probably your most goriest horror film that you're going to see in the entire year, maybe in the last 10 years. Let's just put it this way. Don't watch the movie if you're faint of heart or if you're very, very squeamish. It's probably not a film for you, but it's a very, very good movie, and it's a movie that was only made on $250,000, which is still mind-blowing to me that the movie looks very, very good, and they only spent $250,000 to make it. So that's a very, very impressive feat of filmmaking there for a film on that low of a budget. So definitely check that one out if you guys haven't seen it. But Mike, I'm sure you have some movies on your list that you want to talk about, some of your best movies of the year. So go ahead and take the floor.
Yeah. So this is no necessary order. It's just what I picked. Probably the biggest standout for me this year was The Northman. I did not have really high expectations for the film, and I know a lot of people are a fan of Robert Eggers. But I was impressed. I love that they committed to the concept. And what's his name? I think it's Alexander Skarsgård. It's one of the Skarsgård boys, but I thought he did a fantastic job. The moment that they let him, they show Berserk and they kind of show that Viking culture and that they're really trying to honor that idea. I was sold on the film. I do love the concept that, maybe the supernatural things going on are more just their belief in what's happening. But I also like that they also leave it vague as to whether maybe this is actually happening. Like there's a
Yeah.
quick minor spoiler, but there's like there's a scene where Odin appears in the background of this shot, and the music, the score, everything is amazing. And I'm sorry, but I don't remember the last time I saw a film where two dudes fought naked on a volcano, but I was all for it. I was like, this is, I mean, if you're going to have a climax, you're going to have an awesome fight at the end, that's the way you do it, fighting naked on a volcano. So yeah, that one probably tops my list. I thought it was a really well done movie. I know it got talked about earlier and people weren't a fan of it, but this is personally one of my favorite movies of the year. Was Everything Everywhere All at Once. I had very low expectations with this one. I love Michelle Yeoh. I have a lot of respect for her because I've been a fan of hers since she started back in the day. She's one of the pioneers of like action cinema, and she's one of the few strong female characters that actually is a strong female character instead of what Hollywood thinks is a strong female character. Yeah. But I love the concept of the film. I think the messaging in it is really important. I like the idea that we have this character who's kind of from an old school way of living, and we have this character, in her daughter who's very like millennial and very nihilistic and kind of doesn't care about anything. And to watch their two worlds kind of collide and for them to explore that concept through something as weird and off kilter as a multiverse. But also I feel like they did the multiverse better than even, a certain other multiverse movie, which will be on a different list of rankings. I think I like the idea that, multiverse is not just easily accessible. And yeah, they can be goofy and silly like hot dog fingers, which I mean, like the concept was weird.
Yeah, it's a very over the top film. I mean, you're either going to accept it or you're not. You're going to watch that one.
But I love the action sequences. I thought it was very well done. I thought it was extremely well shot. So yeah, that one's on there. One I actually just watched yesterday that I think has gotten overlooked a little bit. Guillermo del Toro did a Pinocchio film this year, and I actually liked it because I love the claymation style. I think it's a lost art form nowadays. I think everybody just kind of goes with CGI because it's easier. It's not a great film, but it's a unique take on the Pinocchio story. I liked his approach to it, and I love Guillermo del Toro's storytelling anyways. So that one was definitely up there for me. Sonic the Hedgehog 2 was up there. I went and saw that with my kids. I thought it was a good time. I'm a fan of Sonic. I like the lore in Sonic, and I thought they did a good job of like delving into some of the deeper cuts. And, even the ending of the movie, they kind of let you know that there's more deep cuts coming. I like the way that they approach the different characters. The human aspect is annoying to me, and I kind of just wish that people would just go away or be very minor. Like watching the wedding sequence. Yeah, I'm like, what is this? Why am I watching these people talk to each other? I don't care. I just want more of a blue hedgehog running around. But yeah, that one's definitely a standout to me. And then one that I haven't heard about, and this is just a personal connection of mine. Jackass Forever came out this year, and I grew up watching Jackass. I remember watching it on MTV with my buddies. Like we were sneaking watching it because our parents would have never let us get away with watching that show. But like watching the guys still doing their thing and still being as stupid as possible was kind of just a nice, fun, nostalgic throwback to my childhood. And it was nice to see those guys still doing it and still being like as gross and ridiculous and stupid as always, instead of feeling like they like doctored it or they dialed it back because they didn't want to offend anybody. So yeah, those are probably my top 5 favorite of the year.
I'm glad you mentioned Jackass. I think Jackass is actually like the first movie that I watched this year that I actually like really liked because it's a very dumb movie. It's just a bunch of guys like hurting themselves and doing like really dumb stunts. But I felt like with everything that we had been through for the last like 2 years, like prior to that, it was like, I can just watch a bunch of guys like taser each other in the face for a couple of hours, just get some good entertainment out of that. So I was like, I'm fine with that one. Did you ever hear about the whole stunt with the Discovery Channel thing that they did where one of the guys got bit by a shark and almost died?
No, I did not hear about that one.
Yeah, it was. I believe the video is still up too. It was the younger one, the one that kind of like sounds like a surfer dude, bro. Like that.
Oh one. Yeah. Poopies or something like that.
Yeah, him.
Yeah.
So they decided that they were going to do like literally jump the shark. That was like their whole bit. So he got on the ski, he jumped over this pool of sharks, but I guess he didn't go over as well as he thought he did, and landed right in the middle of the pool of sharks, and like two of them like attacked him. And fortunately, like the whole like camera and crew there were there to save him, but he got chomped pretty badly there. So that was a little bit of PTSD there for something that didn't even make the movie, and that probably would have been the biggest stunt in the whole film if they had actually put that one in there. So.
Wow.
All right, so let me go ahead and shift this over to my movie guys, my movie buffs. I'm counting on you here. Don't make me look bad. Let's go for Mr. Christian Toto. I want to go ahead and kind of go over your top 5 movies of the year, because, like I said, obviously we go through a lot more movies than some of the more casual viewers here. So, what did you think was some of your standout films of 2022?
Well, Top Gun Maverick was my number one, and the rest are in no particular order. I'm going to go through some of them quickly. One was I Want You Back, which is a very basic rom-com. It was on Amazon Prime, and it was really good. And I watched it with my jaw open the whole time, thinking it's going to go bad. They can't make good rom-coms anymore. They've forgotten the formula. But this one really held together. And Charlie Day, Jenny Slate, good leads. I just was really charmed by it. Listen, it's not a great movie. It should not be on my list, but again, I had to dumb things down because this is the way it is now, but very, very enjoyable. Also, I have Terrifier 2 on my list. I saw it twice. I had to bring my 13-year-old to see it because all his buddies wanted to see it. It's technically too long. I get that, but there's such a sense of fun. And, we've seen the torture porn movement kind of come and go really quickly. And that's good. I wasn't a fan. But there's something different about these movies. They're way over the top. They're crazy, but there's a sense of humor. There's a sense of mischief. The actor's name is escaping me, but the fellow who plays Art the Clown is brilliant.
Yeah.
Absolutely brilliant. And, this is super low budget filmmaking, but I think it's Damien Leone's the director. He knows what he's doing. He knows how to build suspense, build scares, punctuate it with real laughs. And I just thought it was so enjoyable. And as a horror movie fan, it just hit the spot for me. And another film I loved, and I don't even understand it all. I need to watch it again. And it's kind of woke on paper, is Men. Now, it's hard to describe, but it gave me some of the biggest legitimate jump scares of any movie this year. It was constantly surprising me. It was interesting. It was unnerving. A good performance by Jesse Buckley. And it just kind of got me. And I thought it was so interesting. And again, men, it's how men are all evil. And there's sort of interesting themes there about that. But it really was unique and clever and strong. And maybe it's over the top and maybe it doesn't make any sense when you think about it. But boy, it felt like an experience to me. So I love that one. I thought The Banshees of Inisherin was the one Oscar bait film that actually lived up to the hype. It's so smart and so good and so dry. Colin Farrell is excellent in it. And it's an interesting story about friendship, about mortality, about sort of a cloistered community, about the lack of hope and the lack of resources. I really just connected with it. And so I'm trying to think of some others that I really enjoyed as well. Those are the ones that jump out at me. I thought The Menu was very good. Again, it shouldn't be the Best Picture nominee, but we have a weaker year. And I think The Fabelmans was fine. It was enjoyable. It was solid. That's not a Best Picture. It's not. It's just not. And I think we're kind of reaching out to it because it's Spielberg and we want it to be great. But it's just good, and that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. But it wasn't what it could be or should be.
Oh yeah, we're definitely going to talk about The Menu later, but it won't be on this portion of the show, so we'll save that one for later. Sarah, this is your time to shine. I know we've had some recent arguments about some of the movies on your best list, but this is your window here, so tell the people about the movies that you enjoyed this year.
All right, here we go. I have a list of 10 written down, so I'll just go through them quickly.
Go ahead.
Bottom, number 10 is The Banshees of Inisherin. I did take issue with some of the stuff that he did. It wasn't my favorite from Martin McDonough because I didn't feel like what happens in it is I don't know. He does stuff in his movies where there's a big moment where someone does something that's really crazy and it feels so right, even though it's really crazy. And this movie, the crazy thing that happens does not feel right. It feels really wrong. And so I didn't like it for that reason. But I keep thinking about the speech that Colin Farrell makes at the midpoint about his sister and how she's nice and how niceness is like, and I really resonated with that part of it. So I think it ended up like, I feel like
Saving it.
when I watch it again, I'll enjoy it a lot more for those kinds of reasons, because I'll know what's coming and all the weird stuff that I don't like is going to be less. So I don't know. I really like that one. Number 9, I have The Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent, which I liked a lot more on the second watch too, because I knew what was coming. I thought that Pedro Pascal was really great in that, and it was just funny and fun. 8, The Black Phone, which is just a straightforward, very enjoyable thriller movie.
Yeah.
Nothing really more to say about that. It just is completely by the book of storytelling, and I really enjoyed that about it. Elvis is number 7. I'm not a fan of Elvis at all, like personally, but I was drawn into his story by the movie and by the performance. So I really like Baz Luhrmann's style too, like that he works on me. So
Yeah, not Tom Hanks' voice though. We'll talk
no,
about
Tom
that
Hanks. I almost forgot that he was in it because he was just so like he didn't look like him and his performance wasn't really great. But the guy Elvis was really good. I thought he was great. I have The Cursed at number 6, which is a little smaller horror movie, werewolf type horror movie that's actually set in the 1800s. So it has like the Gothic style to it, which I really enjoy. And Boyd Holbrook is the lead, who I enjoy. So I like that. Number 5, Mrs. Harris Goes to Paris, which is where my female stuff comes in. Me and my mom watched this 3 times, and we just really love it. It's very twee, but really, really enjoyable.
There you go for it.
Yeah. Okay, and then we have Avatar at number 4, and it's just kind of the same deal.
It's a little surprising. I thought it'd be a little higher for you.
Really? No. I just defend it because everyone thinks that it's the worst, but it's not the worst. It's just like made for me and not for y'all, you know. I love the world building. I like the blue aliens. I like fantasy sci-fi stories. And I don't know, I got into the themes of fatherhood and family. I thought that made it a like stand out even above the first Avatar. It kind of like built on the first Avatar without like being like, oh, we don't want to be that anymore. We want to be better. But it just like added to the story. And I'll watch as many of these movies as he wants to make. And then we have Top. Yeah, I mean, I'm down for it. Then I have Top Gun at number 3. I agree with everything y'all said about that. When I saw it at home after the theater, I thought that it dropped off in quality because the visuals are obviously a lot better on the big screen. But then I watched it a 3rd time, and I really got into like the story and the relationships. So I don't know. It's good. It's a very solid, enjoyable, and it has like the blockbuster element, but it also has some heart too. So it works. And then I have 13 Lives at number 2. And that's just a movie that I just put on one afternoon on a whim. And I was like, I like Ron Howard. I like the cast. Let's see. And then it just kind of blew me away. And I was like, this is just such an amazing story, first of all. And I didn't really know. I remember hearing about it in the news, but not really being involved in like what actually happened. They were like, oh, these kids are trapped in a cave. And I was like, oh, no, that's terrible. And then like 2 weeks later, they were like, oh, they got them out. And I was like, what? Why did it take so long? You know? So like learning about how hard it was and just like experiencing the whole story is was fun for me. What's this?
What is dark and gothic? I think the movie you're just talking about, number 2.
Number 2? No, it's not. It's a complete straight drama. It's a Ron Howard movie.
Oh, yeah, did not. No.
Yeah, I love the way Ron Howard does true stories too. Like Apollo 13 is one of my all-time favorites because he takes stories that are already cinematic and like brings out the true parts of them that are interesting instead of adding like stupid drama that doesn't actually enhance the story. It just makes it seem fictional instead of like. So yeah, I really enjoyed, like, there was like some really nuanced performances, and like they were like small moments that were made huge by his filmmaking, and it just really swept me away, and it was like terrifying and moving all at once. So I really like that. And then my number one is not technically a movie. It's a three-part miniseries on BritBox, Why Didn't They Ask Evans, by Agatha Christie, and it was adapted by Hugh Laurie. And it's he just like really understands her style, and so it kind of watches like a movie. If you watch all 3 episodes at once, it's a very long movie kind of thing. And I don't know, it's just like the perfect Agatha Christie tone. The characters are like really sharp. They have like the thin man kind of dynamic going between the 2 leads, and the story is really fun. And Will Poulter is in it, and Lucy Boynton is in it, and they're just like wonderful. And it's just like I've watched it like 3 or 4 times, and I can't get enough. It's just like perfect.
So for the record, your number one movie of the year is not technically a movie.
Yeah, it's that kind of year.
Okay, I just want to go ahead and apologize for everyone who had this.
I'm sorry. I can't help it.
There's a book I read this year that was, I want to put, no.
No, go ahead. All right, Rob. I know I've made you sit through some bad movies. We're not at that point of the year yet. You know, you get a lot of crap for saying that you pretty much hate everything, but surely there have been something this year that you actually liked. So go ahead and give everyone your list of some of your best movies of 2022.
Yeah, there's actually, I made it to 9. I actually filled out 9
Wow.
movies that in my opinion, were worth putting on a list as being memorable or, you know, caught my attention in some way. So here we go. Number 9, Dead for a Dollar. This movie is incredibly ugly, in that like it has no money. I don't think they gave Walter Hill, who is a great director, by the way, any money to do this Western with Christoph Waltz and Willem Dafoe. I mean, it has a really good cast. It's a really solid Western. It just has no promotion, no money behind it. So almost nobody saw it, but I really can't recommend it anymore. I know Armand White had it on his list of best movies of the year. I know a lot of kind of conservative right-leaning critics on Twitter really liked it a lot. So can recommend that one. See How They Run. This movie actually surprised me. I avoided it until the last minute. It has really nice production design. It has it looks interesting post World War II London. And it's a murder mystery. I know we're all sick of the murder mystery, but this one actually wasn't half bad. It was fairly, it was funny. It doesn't, take cheap shots at certain classes, which, I'm just kind of getting sick of personally. So
in other words, it's not Glass Onion.
Yeah. So, See How They Run was actually pretty solid. I enjoyed it. Terrifier 2, as mentioned by Christian, really good, really bloody, memorable, stylistic. It does run on too long. It's, I think I don't know if it's quite 2.5 hours, but it was pretty. I think it's definitely over 2 hours.
Right now.
Yeah. So, but still very memorable. Definitely something I'll be talking about in a couple of years because of some of those kills. Elvis, Austin Butler, I think gave the best male performance of the year as Elvis Presley. Same with Sarah. I have no relationship with the artist. But I was so moved by some of those performances, especially the ending, Unchained Melody to end the movie where he's, almost dead. So I just, Baz Luhrmann has done that before, has kind of enraptured me. The Great Gatsby, which I've been told is a terrible movie. That's what helped me understand the novel. Moulin Rouge, I really liked. Even the Romeo and Juliet adaptation I thought was interesting. So
well, I have to go now because no, just kidding.
No, I get it. He's
Meffistoe
like,
YouTube.
oil and water. Like you either really like what he does or you hate the guy. So I totally get it. Ambulance by Michael Bay. The fact that a Michael Bay movie is on my top movie list is kind of amazing, but I thought he did some really interesting stuff with drones and where he was able to put a camera. I like the chases. It's a heist movie, cops and robbers. It's very basic, but it works in a lot of, that genre storytelling way. So I ultimately have it on my list here. Number 4 is The Black Phone. I just thought it was a very smart, well made movie, executed from start to finish really solidly. It's kind of a mean and nasty movie, a throwback to sort of Gen X experience. And it takes place in the 70s, so that makes sense. So I really enjoyed that one. Number 3 is Tar. Now, this is a movie I had to really think about. I had to really mull it over because it's not really an easy watch. It's not an easy movie to digest. But I think ultimately it's very Hitchcockian. It's very paranoid filled. And Cate Blanchett gives a really good performance. I think artistically, it's one of the best shot movies of the year. I kind of echo what Martin Scorsese said about it recently. So I would say check it out. But I also don't think it's a movie for most audiences. Like,
yeah, not the casual moviegoer. Right.
The fact that it's a conductor or I think that's right, conductor of an orchestra, and that musical world is very, I don't want to say niche, but it's very almost inside baseball. So there's a lot of terms and jargon that can kind of weigh down an audience. And then it's 2 hours and 40 minutes long. So it's, you kind of have to be invested. So I really like it. I don't know that I would recommend it for most audiences, but there you go. Number 2 is Vengeance, BJ Novak's directorial debut. I thought it was a smart movie. I thought that it kind of took the air out of the like coastal elites, view of small town America, and it kind of has some very smart things to say. Outside of that, it's just kind of a murder mystery comedy, fish out of water kind of thing. I just really enjoyed it, just because there was so little at the theaters this year. And Number one movie is Blonde. I thought it was a haunting, beautiful portrayal of this starlet of, Hollywood kind of chewing her up and spitting her out. And it's not an easy movie to sit through. There's some really, really bothersome, really grotesque scenes of behavior. But I think Ana de Armas gave the best performance this year as Marilyn Monroe. I think she's incredible in that role. So it's a flawed movie. It's not perfect, but there are just some really great sweeping artistic moments in it that are really hard to forget. But just that there wasn't much there to kind of keep my interest throughout the year. I just love Blonde, and it never really relinquished that spot for me.
All right, then. Yeah, saw the list there. Like I said, I know there's a few movies on our list that we talked about that I feel are very, very good, but some of them do tend to drag on a little bit long, and I felt like that was kind of a theme with this year, where maybe if some of the movies had just cut off just a little bit and got out while they were ahead, it would have been a lot higher on a lot of our lists. But I don't know if you don't have any problems with some of the films that you mentioned. Now, I'm going to go ahead and give my list of the top 10 films that I watched this year. Now, some of them are foreign films, so I'm going to explain to you the best that I can, because I know some of you guys haven't seen these movies, but my number 10 movie of the year was Hustle. If you remember Hustle, it was the Adam Sandler basketball film that came out on Netflix earlier this year. I think if you're an old school basketball fan, even if you don't watch current basketball, it's a very intriguing movie. It's about, a scout who wants to move up into the executive world to become a coach in the NBA. He goes to Spain to find this new phenom that nobody has any faith in but him. It's a very serious Adam Sandler movie. It's not one of his typical comedies that we all sit here and groan and watch. I wouldn't put it up there with Uncut Gems, but it's still a very solid movie for him. So that's one made my top 10 of the year. Another Netflix movie, shocker, but this one's actually one that was posted from Netflix. It's a movie called Soul Vibes, which is a South Korean film, a heist movie, which has a very, very colorful style. It's set in in the 1980s, back when South Koreans were very in touch with American culture. There's this whole thing about government corruption, and these guys are basically trying to find a way out of essentially getting killed by this government entity that's embezzling so much money from the Olympics and other things. It's a very, very fun film, and that's one thing that I really want to put over in my list this year. Is a lot of these films are fun and are enjoyable to watch. Number 8, which is one I'm kind of surprised nobody brought up, is a film called Pearl. I'm not sure how many people saw Pearl this year, but that one was a very, very good movie. It's a very great character-driven movie, which a lot of my films are character-driven on my best list. Mia Goth, who honestly I wasn't that big of a fan of leading up to this, I think really impressed me with this film. The monologue that she gives towards the actually in the movie. I think it's worth the price of admission alone. Like I say, if you're really into like those kind of dark, gritty, it does get a little bloody at times because it is technically a horror movie, but it's also strongly character driven as well. So Pearl was a very good film on my list this year. Another South Korean movie just released a couple of weeks ago called Decibel. Very, very good character-driven film. It's about a guy who essentially wants revenge for the fact that the Navy tried to cover up an incident that killed his brother a year ago, and he's going around placing like sound-activated bombs across the story. It's not one of those like trivial like hero versus a villain stories, because all the characters are very, very complex. It just so happens that all of these guys are in a situation where, you know, it was unfortunate for everyone involved, but you can see why people will still hold grudges about it. So Decibel, very, very strong film. My number 6 is a film called Hassan, the Rising Dragon. This is another South Korean film that only cost about $23 million to make, but it's set in like the 1500s. The action, the way that everything is shot, the way that everything looks, you would never think that this is a film that only cost $20 million. This looks like a $200 million film. It's very action-packed. It's very stylish. Everything from the character wardrobe to the style of the ships. Very, very entertaining movie, and this one just really stuck out for me, so that's my number 5. Now, my number 6. My number 5 is in the movie that a lot of people probably haven't heard of. It's called Old Man with Stephen Yang. As I said, say Stephen Yang. I was supposed to say what's the guy's name? Actually, just blank.
Lang.
Stephen Lang. I was
Lang.
right. Yeah, I was right the first time. I thought I messed it up. But it's essentially a movie about a guy in a cabin. Some guy knocks into his door. He doesn't trust him because he's in the middle of nowhere. Why is this guy knocking on my door? Is he up to something? Does he want something? And it's literally a movie about two guys in a cabin. They know somebody in the room is lying to them, but they don't know who it is. So it's literally them just having a long, drawn out conversation, trying to figure out who the villain is. And then when you get to the ending, it's definitely an ending that you don't expect, but it really just goes to put a bow on that movie. Old Man with Stephen Yang is the best movie that I've seen with him this year. Sorry, Avatar fans, it just is. So that's my number 5. Number 4, Infinite Storm with Naomi Watts. This is about a movie about a woman dealing with loss. She lost her daughter in a tragic accident, and she meets a guy who is out in the middle of nowhere. He's freezing to death. She's trying to save him. He wants to die because he blames himself after his girlfriend passed away earlier in the year. So you have really two people at two very different points in their life trying to deal with the loss of loved ones. And it's a very, very strong movie in that aspect. It's one that kind of came and went in movie theaters. It wasn't there for long, but I'm glad that I saw it. It's definitely one of my top films of the year, and it stands out for me. Infinite Storm, definitely recommend that film. Number 3, Top Gun Maverick. I don't think there's anything more than I can add that hasn't already been said about that film. I mean, it's the best film that was released in North America this year by far. It was the only film that people saw for like 6 or 7 months. It had an absolutely crazy run. Definitely worth the price of admission. Very, very strong. And maybe Tom Cruise is going to die one of these days jumping out of planes, but hey, as long as the movie is good, I'll go ahead and take it. My number 2 movie of the year, another South Korean film called Girl on a Bulldozer. If it's pretty much exactly what the film says. You have a girl dealing with the loss of her father. A rich family essentially covered up what happened with the incident, the car accident. She's trying to find out what really happened. She's a very short-tempered girl, and let's just put it this way: the film ends with a girl on the bulldozer. So you definitely do not get cheapened in that aspect as well. It's probably one of the best movies that I've seen this year, and if it wasn't for my number 1, it would be my number 1. But my number 1 movie of the year is a film called RRR, the Indian movie. Look, I know it's 3 hours, but trust me, you watch this film, you're gonna wish that you had more of this. The style, the characters, the story, everything's about, leadership, about, strong men fighting for what they believe in, fighting for their family. There's so much packed into this film. There's obviously it has, your Indian numbers. There's some over-the-top action scenes, but that's just what makes it so great. There was one movie where I couldn't find anything negative to say about this movie. So it was my only movie this year that I gave a 5 out of 5 rating to. And because of that, nothing came close to topping RRR for me. So that's my number 1 movie of the year. And there's my top 10 list for 2022. So before we move on to our worst list, did anyone have any honorable mentions for good movies that you guys want to recommend before we get into the absolutely terrible movies this year? I'll open the floor to anyone who wants to start.
I really liked What is a Woman? I think it's the most subversive documentary in quite some time. It was really brilliantly packaged. I know the director a little bit. He's a good guy and a very smart filmmaker. And the way it's handled, the star is Matt Walsh, who's a very dry guy. He doesn't have a lot of overt charisma, but it's almost like you needed that to kind of address this issue and to kind of poke at the people he's poking at. And just asking one simple question stirs so much reaction. And it's so, what movie could better capture 2022 than What is a Woman? And the fact that 99% of fellow film critics ignored it, wouldn't go near it, is fascinating to me. And I actually should then send them all thank you notes because I got a ton of traffic and made a ton of revenue. Reviewed it. So keep going, guys and gals. You're doing great for me. So.
Well, how about Letterboxd not allowing reviews? And it was just like, what purpose are you serving if you're literally going to censor people's critical reviews of a movie? It was ridiculous.
Yeah, don't worry. I got a nice Letterboxd rant saved for the end of our show here because I had a couple of run-ins with Letterboxd this year. But anyone else want to bring up any honorable mentions that they like this year?
Yeah, I had one.
Go ahead. No, you go.
All right. I was going to say, I actually watched this with my wife recently. 3,000 Years of Longing. It's a film with Idris Elba and Tilda Swinton, and Idris Elba plays a djinn. So it's basically like a genie in a bottle story. I did not think I was going to like this movie. I thought it was just going to be very stylistic, and it's directed by George Miller, so it wasn't like my expectations were through the roof, but I actually really enjoyed it. I really like the focus they put on Idris Elba's character. I thought Idris Elba did a great job as his character, and Tilda Swinton was fine, but it was really good. The third act is kind of a mess, and I wasn't a huge fan of like how the story concluded, but overall I really enjoyed the concept of like making wishes and the concept of like, having infinite knowledge and infinite, things at your fingertips and what kind of decisions you would make with that. So yeah, that was probably the one film this year that I was surprised was better than I expected it to be. So
yeah, we reviewed it on here, and I think we all panned it. Me and Jacob and Rick.
Oh wow!
It wasn't necessarily bad. It just never rose above that kind of standard.
It was one of those middle of the road movies for me. I didn't absolutely slam it like some of the other films we'll talk about here in a second. But Meffistoe, you were going to bring up a movie too.
No. I haven't watched many movies this year, actually. I was so preoccupied in watching past stuff. A lot of past stuff. It's
you and Rob should link up because you guys are basically the same.
To be absolutely fair, I've watched more movies this year and last year just to do my own thing. It's incredible. I literally have. I think I've showed it to you. Like I have this little note, something that Gary said like this year or last year. It's the future is the past.
Yep.
A lot of movies that have been done and people just pass them by because I'll get to watch it later, and I get to watch movies that I have watched before. I got to watch a lot of movies that I've never watched before this year just because of what we do. And there's a whole world out there. Either get it hard DVD or like streaming service or whatever, it's out there.
Yeah, well, I always am going to endorse physical media, especially in the days of streaming and stuff like that, where any kind of corporation can take away your library just like that. So if you have the opportunity, definitely go with physical and definitely older movies. And a little shout out to Tubi. If you guys haven't heard of Tubi, it's a free movie service. Yeah. They have a whole bunch of older movies, movies that they've forgotten. It's one of the best streaming services out there because not only are the films that they put out there actually good, but like I said, it's completely free and they have a large catalog and stuff, and it's ever changing. So I'll definitely put over Tubi for guys who haven't seen it yet. So
nice.
All right, so those were the list of our best movies of the year. If you guys haven't seen them, check it out. That's probably the only recommendation. The only recommendation that I have for you guys, because we're going to talk about bad movies now. We're going to talk about absolutely awful, the worst of the worst. These films, some of the films on my list, like actually made me angry. Like not even just like, oh, I hate this movie. It's like, no, I hate everyone involved in this movie. But I'm going to go ahead and start with Meffistoe here because we're on time for you. So go ahead and give us your list of the worst absolute garbage movies of 2022. What do you got to start off with?
was really hard. I'm going to mention only 2 movies just because I don't want to crowd the thing. One is Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness.
Yeah.
I was kind of forced to watch this in the theater because my brother really wanted to go, and he still believes in the MCU, even though he also sees the cracks. And when I got out of the movie, I was like, yeah, I think it's a 7 or a 6. Rewatched it again with my wife, and we were like, this is fucking awful. This is terrible. This is just so bad. It's another multiverse movie, another main character in the movie that is not the main character of the movie. Definitely call it Wanda in the Multiverse of Madness. Genuinely, you would hit the mark. Like, Doctor Strange was not the hero of the movie. There was no hero of the movie. There was just her, and whatever they did. Like, I'm not a comic book guy, but I have lots of friends who are comic book guys, and whatever they did, whoever made the decision to do the first MCU Fantastic Four, character, and then immediately evaporate him into spaghetti sauce, needs to be taken out the back and just join the people on the wall, because damn.
And didn't they have the audacity to try to make her a sympathetic character after doing that?
Yeah, and as soon as she's, I don't know if anybody watched the movie, and please trust me, spoilers are stupid dumb. Yeah. As soon as she brought down the thing on herself and you saw no body, no blood, they're like, yeah, she's coming back. I don't care. I don't care how much she's going to say, like the actress is going to say, no, I'm done with this. As soon as that money truck come rolling in from Disney and just beep, beep, beep out of her front door and just dump a whole bunch of money, we'll see Wanda again for sure. The other one is Everywhere All at Once, another multiverse movie. Like I said, it's
over 2 on the multiverse.
Probably like recency bias, but the other thing I didn't mention is the one good thing about it is James Hong. I loved him in the movie. He has a very small part in it, but he nails it just because he's a fantastic character actor for any movie that you want. Anyone of Chinese descent, perfect. The whole story arc with the mother-daughter thing, no. It's just not for me. Didn't hit the mark, and all the things that are around the thing is just bad. One point of reference, take it for what you will. Data, whoever the name of the actor is, or Short Round, he is 48 years old. How come he didn't go through puberty? Because he has the same voice as he had back when he was playing Short Round. Please advise me. Tell me how come that is. I know, Asian don't crack, but holy shit, that was crazy.
I was gonna say a couple of quick notes real quick. The Doctor Strange 2 was actually my best MCU film of the year, and it still sucked. And we'll get to why that is later on. And then
I'm not surprised.
Like I said, Everything Everywhere All at Once. Like I said, some people love it, some people hate it. I think the part that a lot of people lost was, and then there's a lot of ridiculous parts about the film, but I think the ending was so jumbled because you were sitting there trying to figure out, okay, what is the actual point of this movie? Like, what's the message they're trying to portray? And it's some people kind of went with the absurdism angle of the film, and that led them to like the film. And a lot of people saw it kind of more nihilistic, and that helped them not like the film. It's one of the most polarizing films of the year. I've heard people say good things and bad things about it, and honestly, I can't argue one way or another. It's just one of those films that you're either gonna like it or you're not. So,
yeah, exactly. All right, I actually need to go because it is 1 a.m. here, and I need to get up for work in about 4 hours.
All right, then. Well, is there anything you want to go ahead and promote real quick? We'll go ahead and give you the floor just in case you got something coming up.
The links are in the description. It's at Meffistoe. I like it. The YouTube has done handles, so it makes it easier. Just at Meffistoe. It's Mephisto's movie reviews. We have one show on the weekend, which is Saturday. every Saturday at 3 p.m. Eastern, 12 p.m. Pacific. It's called The Real McCoy Podcast. We choose every single week. We choose a movie for the audience to watch. Hopefully they watch it, and then they come back to us and we break it down. We don't cover scene by scene, but we try to cover the entire movie. We have some games along the way just to break up the monotony and just have some fun and enjoy movies on the whole. That's the stuff I like. But also there's 2 new shows in the middle of the week. Just check those out.
All right, then. Thanks for joining us, man. I know you've been very busy. You've been streaming nicely nonstop for the last couple of hours. So thank you for joining us here. And go ahead.
Yeah.
Link is in the description. If you guys haven't already followed him, go follow him there. And what was your
you will see some of these faces on my channel.
2001. I'll see it for 2001, man. Looking for that since I've never seen it. So
I'll give you another surprise, Nick, because we're gonna have Lofty on the same. we're gonna have.
Oh, this is gonna be good.
We're gonna have some fucking fun. Just plain old fun.
Officially.
Really, really pleasure to meet you, man. Thank you, everybody. We'll check. I'm definitely gonna check everybody's channel. Don't worry about it. And I'll peace out. Thank you, Jacob. That was awesome.
No problem, man. Anytime you can come back. All right. Well, since we're also on the note on the worst films of the year, let's go ahead and start with Nick. 'Cause I know Nick's your time's coming up too. So let's start off with you. What was some of them films that you absolutely hated in 2022?
Okay, so mine are gonna be 2 comic book based movies, and this is from the perspective of being someone who grew up on the comic books. I have been a fan who's read over maybe quite a few hundred Batman comic books. Quite a few hundred, maybe 500 or 600, maybe more. Maybe 1,000. I don't know. I've read a lot of them. I've read a lot of eras. I've covered all the grounds over the years. Obviously, I've watched the animated series, The Brave and the Bold, the movies, have many of the toys over the years. I thought the Batman was, in my strong opinion, the second worst Batman movie of them all. I think the only one that beats it in terms of being worse is Batman and Robin. And even then, I'd still say Batman and Robin is slightly more entertaining. I think the character assassination of almost all the characters alone pissed me off to no end. I hated what they do with the Riddler, making him the Zodiac Killer and another internet incel villain, because nowadays, if you're a fan, you're automatically an incel. We've seen it so many times, and it was just like, oh, here we go again with this. And I hated what they did with the Waynes even more. And I know why they did it too. It's because their parents were white. So the dad had to be bad to work with the mafia. Rich and white. Yeah, rich and white. You're right. No, you're right. And then the mom with the mental shit. I'm like, this is very antithetical to the Waynes. And the thing is, I'm not even like polarized towards Robert Pattinson. Like, I actually seen some of his other movies. I actually think, he's fine. I don't think he's like great. He's fine. He's come a long way. He was not Bruce Wayne once in this movie, because there is a thing to being Batman is Bruce Wayne is Batman, but Bruce Wayne is not Bruce Wayne, because Bruce Wayne's supposed to be the disguise. This entire movie, he was Batman, outside the suit including. He was Batman the entire movie. And if you want to call it a nitpick, go ahead and have it. But it's a criticism I'll stand by. And everything to me, I don't mind dark. I especially for Batman, I feel like that fits. But the movie is just so muddy to look at. It just looks so ugly to look at. I'm like, it took me out of it at time. And then a Catwoman's dialogue was just like so left field. It's kind of like the "I'm vegan." It's like, oh, how are you doing? I'm vegan. That was what her dialogue was.
Right.
I'm just like, and so it's funny because like I've heard like I talked to, I think I was talking to Paulie from Latino Slam about many months back, and he's like, dude, I'm super brown, and that took me out of the movie. It just it's so out of nowhere, like bad dialogue, horrible character assassination, and of course, once again, Pattinson's just very average as Batman. And I don't know if that's to say because he was given a bad story, because even a good actor, no matter how talented, can only do so much with a story. I feel like even with a better story, it can only do him so much. Maybe he's just one of those guys who's just not meant to be Batman. Now, if you had given him a good script and to maybe be I don't know. What's that guy's name? Tim Drake. Maybe that'd be more appropriate. That would be the
Yeah.
third Robin in the books. I think that would make more sense. But the movie is just, it should have never been made. It should have never been made. And for all the complaints I have about the Zack Snyderverse, if there's one thing I was looking forward to out of it, was what was supposed to be a written, directed, and starred Affleck Batman. Because I actually thought, okay, if you take out the Punisher element out of those Batman movies, he seems like he could actually be a good Batman. He's big, he is very like shredded. So, and he had the height. Batman's supposed to be 6'3", so he had the build right there. And he had the perfect jawline too, and he rocked the suit as well. So, like, it should have been there. We were robbed. It's absolute robbery, and fuck Hollywood for doing that to Affleck, for doing him dirty. So that's that. Now,
Well, hey, look at the bright side. I mean, sure, Affleck's gone. Sure, Gal Gadot's gone. Sure, Henry Cavill is gone. Sure, we're going to just go ahead and throw away this whole universe. But hey, at least Ezra Miller's staying, right?
Right.
you know, according to Gunn, he's saying that that's misleading. It's just like, okay, either you're lying or you're trying to put on damage control.
The fact
I
that
don't know
he
which
even
one
said that
it
is misleading tells me it's probably true. Because if it
Yeah,
wasn't
yeah.
true, he would just said no, absolutely
Right.
not.
And if it is misleading, then it's if it's misleading, then it's damage control. That's all that is
Yeah.
damage control. So yeah, it will probably amount to nothing. I don't know. It's hard to say if he actually is or is not. I don't know, and honestly, I don't care. Like, it's what it is. Like, I have no interest in the not Flash movie because it's not the Flash movie. It's the Batman movie with Flash as support, but we're gonna put the Flash's name over it. That
Yeah.
movie's dead on arrival. No, I'm done talking about the Batman, but I will talk about Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. Once again, another character who I've read not as many comics as Batman, but I'd say around 200-300, so still a decent amount, nonetheless. And having Strange not be the Sorcerer Supreme was absolutely insulting. I know I was one of those people I didn't complain about from No Way Home because he was technically dead. I get it,
Yeah.
you know, you should pay your dues, reclaim your title back. I'm for that. I'm all for, you know, doing the grind and reclaiming your title. I was for that, so I didn't care about it with No Way Home. But for this movie to have Strange doing all the literal heavy lifting, and for having Wong basically being the sideline guy, and yet he has the title, was absolute horse shit. Fuck that shit. That was dumb. Fuck all those writers for that shit. They should all be sued and bitch smacked for that shit alone. And then
You
of
didn't like
course-
all the mommy, what was it, the mommy Scarlet Witch crap on Twitter?
Oh,
It just made
dude.
you wanna,
Oh man.
made you want to nay off a bridge.
Yes. And I never think like that too. That's the thing. Like, I'm probably the most white-pilled guy ever. And trust me, I'm on yelling at parked cars. And I know,
Yeah.
like, anyone knows me, I don't get this way about anything, like, ever. But this one, I was just like, bro, what? And then you got Strange, once again, another character who's second fiddle. And then here's the thing. I actually like the first movie. I do. I'll stand by that. I like it. Obviously, I feel like the villain is a bit weak, but I feel like it told the story of Stephen Strange mostly accurately, got more right than it did wrong. It was conventional and convenient, but it worked to what they were building. So I like that movie. But this movie really brought his character arc many steps down because of all the power he gained and all the accolades he gained from Infinity War. His character arc has just been dialed back a lot after this. After all the advances they did with him with Infinity War, which that movie made him look really good. This movie does not. And this is supposed to be his sequel. It wasn't his sequel. That's not true. And then on top of it, you have what was, for me, I'm a big Fantastic Four guy. So I'm a big Fantastic Four guy. Seeing what happened with Reed Richards and then seeing what happened with Black Bolt. I actually love the Inhumans too. Seeing those two characters who are, one is supposed to be the smartest man in the Marvel universe, and Black Bolt's supposed to be one of the most powerful guys in the universe, were the first two decimated, and that was bullshit.
It's
You do
not only
do
that
to those characters.
the Illuminati is literally supposed to be a collection of the smartest characters in all of Marvel.
Yep.
And Doctor Strange from another universe says, hey, you might want to watch out for Wanda. She's kind of crazy. It's like, oh no, we can handle Wanda. And then like 10 minutes later, they're all dead. So
Yes, it was.
And then you
it was-
you make Black Bolt the guy who spent his entire life learning how not to speak, so he doesn't
Yeah.
actually destroy an entire planet. Doesn't think about the fact that opening his mouth when his mouth is completely sewed shut is a bad idea. They're just like, nah, he would have freaked out and done it. And I'm like,
And
oh, okay.
And they did it just so they can push Captain Carter to fight these characters.
Yeah.
Like, are you
Girl
you
boss.
can't make me believe you can't make I can't even believe Steve Rogers Captain America. Like, obviously you would put up a better fight, but it wouldn't make as much sense. Even though I like
Yeah.
Steve Rogers a lot more, it doesn't still make as much sense. This shit doesn't line up, but they don't care because it's all about the women verse now.
Also, not only that, but if you actually watch WandaVision, the Monica Rambeau when she saved Scarlet Witch and did that really cringy line of "You'll never know what you sacrificed for them" or something like that, and then in the very next film, she goes and kills the alternate universe version of her mother, which is just absolutely just a right on top too. So yeah.
Mm-hmm. Oh, dude, trust me, I was livid from that finale. Here's the thing: I wasn't as polarized as others were of the middle of WandaVision. I was rolling with it, but then that finale was like, okay, I guess this is what people felt about Game of Thrones, except add 9 more seasons to it. So it's a good thing I never watched Game of Thrones because I would have lost my mind. I would have probably threw a chair or done something stupid.
Yeah.
But what they did to Black Bolt and Mr. Fantastic, and it was clearly also a bad message towards just the idea of no dads. Because, oh, hey, you had a dad? Oh, they'll be fine without their mom before she off Reed Richards. And, of course, with America Chavez, there's no dads. And, of course, with Strange, everyone hates Doctor Strange in this movie. And I'm just like, okay, I get it. Everyone in this who worked on this movie hates men. I get it. Yeah, I will. That movie is just absolute trash. And being a Doctor Strange fan, it's embarrassing. It's straight up embarrassing. And I just like I don't want to see anything that has any of those writers attached to it or a writer adjacent, should I say, people who are like them, because it was embarrassing to watch. And the fact that Sam Raimi's name was attached, and I get it. I know the MCU has been basically you're a director name only. I get that.
Traffic guard.
Yeah, you're there just to put your name to attach it to. I get that's kind of been their model since day one, and that's not my issue. But the fact that they did the damage is strange because the Marvel Comics, it kind of is the same way too. If you're a writer, you do have a limit to what you can and can't do because you got to maintain continuity. I see the same practice with movies you can do, but what they did Strange was terrible. And yet, all of a sudden, Wanda Maximoff, if her death was for all the power she has, you're gonna tell me a bunch of rocks fell on her. And that's supposed to sell her death.
Yeah, and somehow it was still better than Thor. So I mean,
I didn't even finish that. I think I made it through half hour, 40 minutes, and I'm just like, okay, I like my life too much. That was it. But that's all I got for that, dude. Seriously, I will never.
I mean, no, that was a great leadoff point there. Some of our worst movies of the year. I know you do have to get out of here pretty soon. So like I said, I know, but I do want to give you a quick chance to promote everything you got coming on because you got a lot going on Tuesday. And so go ahead and take the floor here.
So yeah, Toxic Tuesday. It's a show I do. Once again, like Mephisto, I have gone to the past as well. I talk about old movies that have come out. We're gonna be talking about Fire and Ice this week for Toxic Tuesday. That's going to be our episode. And, of course, I do a comic shop show for comic book fans on Friday night. We've been currently covering the Infinity Gauntlet series. This week we'll be talking issue 2. And I'll have 2 videos out as well. I'll have one on the concept of gatekeeping and why it needs to be properly defined. So, and, of course, you can find me at Midnight's Edge After Dark and with Comics Division on Yelling at Park Cars and Thursday Night Throwdown. Jacob, it's been a pleasure. Thank you for having me, sir. I'm not happy I can't stick around to hear everyone else's thoughts and opinions because I want to be a part of this, but thank you for having me, guys, in chat. Pleasure seeing the familiar faces and a pleasure to meet all the new faces. You all have a great day, great night, and I hope to see each and every one of you very soon. Thank you, Jacob. Thank you, panel.
See you again, bud.
Thank you, Nick. We got to get you on the Barroom podcast one of these days. So hopefully we'll get that sooner rather than later. So go subscribe to Nick. His link is in the chat. Let's go ahead and move on to our good buddy Mike here. Like I said, you got some good competition here. So what do you got for your worst movies of the year?
Yeah, so I think there's going to be some universal ones. I'm going to start with one that just got talked about. Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness is awful. It's not a good movie in any way,
Yeah.
shape, or form. There is one good scene that I actually really enjoyed, but this is because of how Doctor Strange is in general. I love the music fight in that movie between Doctor Strange and
Oh
evil
yeah,
Doctor
yeah.
Strange. But that's just because I think that they need to utilize more magic in the MCU. Here's the thing. I remember when Scott Derrickson was doing interviews and talking about his original plans for, Doctor Strange in the future, and talking more about bringing back Baron Mordo, Chiwetel Ejiofor. I don't necessarily like this version of Baron Mordo, like as far as it's not comic book accurate, but I love Chiwetel Ejiofor. I think he's an amazing actor, and I think he did a great job. I would have loved to see these characters coming head to head again. I would have loved them to use Nightmare. I think there was a lot of potential, and the fact that this is what we got and this is all that was left of it, the fact that you brought Sam Raimi in and he couldn't save this film, and it's very obvious when Sam Raimi's directing the movie and when he's not. Like, it's just a complete slap in the face to Doctor Strange, to Benedict Cumberbatch. It's a slap in the face to Wanda. It's a slap in the face to everybody that worked on this film, and to the fans who deserve much better for a character that has so much potential and could have gone some really unique. So the movie sucks, and I don't want to talk about it
A
anymore.
quick little side note just on that real quick. Scott Derrickson and Robert C. Cargill both left that movie because they had creative differences with Disney and went to go do The Black Phone, which is actually one of the better films of the year. So there's another L for Disney.
Yeah, absolutely. We're going to keep in line with what we've already been talking about. The next movie up. I have not watched this film. I will not watch this film. I might watch this one day. Who knows? But I've seen enough clips from the movie, and I watched the previous one, and I know what's coming. Thor: Love and Thunder. It's still on my list, and I haven't even watched the film. I know. Listen, Taika Waititi did I believe last year, did a really awesome movie in Jojo Rabbit. I believe that was 2021. That might have been 2020. Jojo Rabbit's actually a really good movie. I thought it was excellent. I thought it was very well done. I don't know what happened. They just were like, hey, man, just do whatever you want. And Taika Waititi was like, I don't have any capability of doing drama or any kind of payoff or setup. I just have humor, and let's make fart jokes and just throw it all at the wall and hope something sticks. I don't know, because that's all I've ever seen about anything of this film. The fact that they keep rebooting Thor and changing his story and bringing him back around to all these different things. I'm one of the few people that actually kind of enjoyed the concept of like Thor giving up and becoming like a fat, like nothing, because he was still struggling with his own abandonment and his own issues and stuff like that. I thought that was kind of an interesting concept. I didn't despise it, but what they did with this film is nothing like what they should have. There's no payoff. So like, frick Taika Waititi, once again, frick Marvel. It's a slap in the face to fans. They continue to just slap their fans in the face, kick them in the balls, and then open up their purses and say, please give us money. So another one. And then Wakanda Forever. Okay, credit where credit is due. Angela Bassett acts her butt off in this film. She is given it everything she's got. If this was in a better film, everybody would be talking about what a great job she did. In this movie, it just seems like she's trying to carry the film because she doesn't have anything else to do. It's a slap in the face to Chadwick Boseman. It's a slap in the face to Letitia Wright, who has more than enough acting chops to carry the film and doesn't get the opportunity to, because every time she tries to have any kind of moment, they immediately, interrupt it with comedy, or they interrupt it with an explosion or something. Shout out to Winston Duke. He does the best job he can as M'Baku, but he barely gets anything to do in this movie. And then, also to bring in Namor, such a massive character in the comic books, and then to make him, forgive me, it's not Namor, it's Lakukulkan.
We like to call him Razor Namor.
Yeah, one of the worst villains I've ever seen in the MCU, period. Even worse than the Dark Elves and Thor, the Dark World. Just a terrible villain with, the movie ultimately amounts to two minorities who have exclusive access to one of the rarest resources in the world, fighting each other over not letting white people have it.
Yeah.
But
keep in mind, Namor's whole motivation was that, hey, you guys introduced the world to Wakanda and now they're after us. Come help us. It's like, no, I think you killing 20 CIA agents had more to do with them coming after you than just vibranium simply existing.
Yeah, they're like, hey, we're trying to help the world. And he's like, yeah, you shouldn't do that. Also, I just put ourselves on the map by attacking you and everyone around me. And it's awful. It's just an awful concept. And it was very obvious that somebody just put this algorithm into a computer and went, I hope this movie works. And then they shot it, which is a complete disrespect, because Ryan Coogler is a better director than this. In his previous movies, I think he's done a better job of doing these character dramas. Black Panther 1 is not perfect by any stretch of the imagination, but there are some moments in there where you could let Ryan Coogler do his thing, and I think he did a good job. This movie, Ryan Coogler did not direct this movie. Anybody could have directed this movie, because this is basically on autopilot the entire time. So once again, frick Marvel, slap in the face to them. I don't know what the rules are for swearing, so I'm trying to keep myself.
Nah, you can go all in.
Fuck Marvel, man. Like, I can't fucking believe they did this to somebody, to people. Like, especially to Chadwick Boseman's memory. Like, what an awful send off to an amazing job. I mean, a guy that worked his butt off in these films to try to portray the best T'Challa we could have gotten, that we've gotten so far. And I don't think we'll ever see T'Challa again unless Marvel gives up this character and gives it to somebody else. So I think that's also on Marvel for completely screwing up Black Panther.
It's a movie that they should have just scrapped. It's like, if the guy died, just don't do the movie. Just don't do the movie.
Yep. You could have put him in another type of Civil War film or the next Avengers movie and addressed that he passed away or something. And the fact that they let him die by getting some random virus, they just some undisclosed illness, and he died. And I'm like, that's not honoring Chadwick Boseman or Black Panther.
Especially in a world where this is supposed to be the most technologically advanced society in human history, yet somehow he just dies of an illness that they couldn't cure.
They couldn't cure. And the fact that then they also throw it on him, because this is the thing. The first half of the movie tries to honor him, but in the second half of the movie, Shuri flat out states, if he had told me sooner, I could have saved his life. So you're basically saying it's his fault that he died, and the reason everybody's sad is because of him. Mm-hmm. Like, so not even that, but then they just go around and disrespect him, and then they kill off another character. No spoilers for people that want to see this movie, don't though. They kill off another character, which then completely overshadows T'Challa being dead.
Yep.
Completely ignores it. They're just like, oh, let's grieve about this character instead. Now, fuck that movie. It's terrible. And then we'll go to across the way to the guys that currently have DC and their little grubby fingers. Fantastic Beasts: Secrets of Dumbledore was a terrible movie as well. I love the first Fantastic Beasts movie. It's actually my second favorite Harry Potter film. Because I love Newt Scamander as a character. I love the concept of this like very different, very weird guy going on these quirky magical adventures, and there not being like necessarily stakes about the whole world ending. And the fact that this movie is all about the world ending, and then also about like wizard politics. Oh, this guy's going to get elected as the bad wizard, and this guy's going to get elected as a good, this lady's going to get elected as a good wizard. Like, what are you doing? Like, come on, guys. Like, I don't know what they're thinking with this. The movie is terrible. The fact that they push Newt Scamander to the background makes the movie worse. Jude Law did an okay job as Dumbledore, but this doesn't really feel like Dumbledore. This feels like Dumbledore's cousin trying to figure out things. I don't know. None of this felt like a magical wizarding world. It just felt like a bunch of dudes with wands just shaking their dicks in front of everybody for the world to see. I don't know. It was a terrible movie. I was very disappointed in it. I don't want to watch any more of the Fantastic Beasts saga unless they go back to letting Newt do what Newt does best, which is be funny and weird and deal with Fantastic Beasts, because they keep calling this Fantastic Beasts and there's no Fantastic Beasts. It's just a bunch of dudes like arguing with each other and trying to get elected as president of the wizarding world. I don't know. It's stupid. It's a stupid movie. And then my favorite one to rip apart. I watched this just recently. It's not recency bias. It's just a bad movie. Glass Onion, Knives Out Mystery, which should be called Glass Onion. It's completely see-through, and there is no mystery, because there is no mystery. I have never watched a movie where the director is so like masturbatory and self-congratulatory that you can feel his hubris in the film, going like, look at how smart I am. They start the movie out telling you that Benoit LeBlanc is the smartest detective in the world, and he doesn't solve anything. He makes it worse for everybody around him. He hinges on just like happenstance and luck the entire time, and then it happens to kind of sort of play out for him, but in the end not really, because he doesn't solve anything and everything goes bad. And the ending of it is basically like F the billionaire guy with his island. Like, he doesn't have insurance, that he won't survive all of the things happening to just happen to him. He's still going to be rich at the end of the day. And like the fact that you think he's going to go to jail for all this, no. He's not going to go to jail. He'll have billions of dollars. He'll let his friends all go to jail and take the fall for him, and he'll go on living his life. whatever. Like, it is what it is.
Yeah,
but,
the
like,
ending of the film is, oh, he's gonna go to jail because they burned the Mona Lisa. It's like, no, you guys burned the Mona Lisa. Why would he
Yeah.
go to jail if you guys destroyed all this shit?
yeah, and also this is like, supposed to be like in the future. He probably has cameras everywhere. If he doesn't, he's an idiot. But, like, once again, that doesn't make sense why he wouldn't have cameras everywhere, and why they wouldn't put it on him to put cameras everywhere, because the Mona Lisa is sitting in his house.
Mm-hmm.
Like, the fact that the end of the movie, the mystery, literally is just, look how dumb everything is and how simple the whole concept is not a clever thing. Ryan Johnson does this thing. He does it with all of his movies. And the more you go back and look at his films, especially The Last Jedi, he sets up these grandiose concepts and ideas and questions. And he's like, ooh, what could happen with this? And what could happen to that? And then the second half of his film is literally him just ignoring all of that, saying that none of that is important. And that the thing that you thought it was what it was the whole time. And just get over it. And it's awful. Ryan Johnson, like, he's not even I wish he was an incompetent director that would just stop getting work. He is decent enough when it comes to filmography. He's decent enough when it comes to shots. All of that stuff. If he just stopped thinking he was so damn smart, he probably could make a decent film. But he doesn't. He thinks he's God's gift to filmmaking. And look what he did to every Star Wars. And then this is the best that we get when he gets his own thing to do. It's just awful. So
It's actually worse than that. Is that Ryan Johnson, I think, is actually capable of being a very, very good filmmaker, and yet he chooses to sell out. He chooses to give Hollywood exactly what it wants, even if it's embarrassing on an artistic level. Like, anybody who likes movies and knows the history and knows literally what to judge them by, will watch that movie and be like, this is one of the dumbest things I've ever seen. And I thought last year with Don't Look Up, I thought that fit how you just explained it, how masturbatory it was and how in love with himself Adam McKay was. Yeah. I think Ryan Johnson hasn't beat this year with Glass Onion. Absolutely.
Keep in mind, 2 minutes into the film, I was like, okay, so Edward Norton is playing Elon Musk, right? So he has to be the bad guy, right? And I went through the entire movie, be like, it can't be that simple. I can't even figure out the movie 2 minutes in, and it was exactly what you thought it was. And people were talking about, oh, this is a smart, brilliant movie. I can't believe how intelligent. No, like, I figured it out 2 minutes in, just because I knew you guys want to slam Elon Musk. So I was like, no, it's absolutely stupid. Yeah. But yeah, oh God, I can go on around in that film, but I'll say that one for you guys. Christian, I know you have a list here, some of the movies that you hated this year. And I know you've seen a lot of bad movies. So what topped that list of bad movies for you?
Before I get into it, I liked Glass Onion much more than the group here, but I don't disagree with anything you just said. So there's that what it is. But,
I apologize. I agree with you that I probably would have liked it a lot more. I just wish they would have I wish they wouldn't spend so much time trying to make it seem like it's going to be this like really, really amazing Agatha Christie, like twisty novel, and just let it be this kind of fun ensemble cast thing that I thought it was going to be and then wasn't. I don't know. That's just me. Go ahead, please.
Just real quick. The thing with Ryan Johnson, they're still carrying him over their shoulders because of The Last Jedi. Because they love The Last Jedi. They know that the people who they don't like hated The Last Jedi. So they're still trying to make it seem like this guy's like one of the best modern day filmmakers in the world because he was attached to that movie. All of his movies sucked. Like, can we stop pretending like this guy's good?
Well, my worst movie is by a very talented filmmaker. And I just couldn't believe it as I was watching it. No, now some people put this on their best list. I thought it was a disaster. It starts out with some intrigue. I was plugged in, good actors here, and then it kind of meanders. There's one early jump scare that's very good. The monkey scene was chilling, but I don't know what that has to do with the bigger picture. Who knows? And by the end, I was bored. I was rolling my eyes. I was amazed that it had fallen this far. Jordan Peele can make good movies, and I just hope he's not going to go the M. Night route where the early promise, the early accolades just, fed his ego, and now he's just unable to deliver something spectacular. So I thought it was a disaster. A lot of people have a lot of love for Clerks 3. Oh my gosh, what an absolute train wreck. It's so painstakingly unfunny. I can't believe it. If we had Kevin Smith on this podcast right now, I guarantee we'd be laughing, we'd be smiling. He's kind of a funny, gregarious guy, self-effacing. I mean, he's got some flaws, but it just seems like he can be charming. And I watched this movie stone-faced, and the sentimentality is off the charts. just painful. I guess one of the most kind of disturbing things for me is one of my favorite movies of all time, horror movies, is The Descent, maybe 2005 or so.
Yeah.
Neil Marshall was this British filmmaker. I think it was his second film. And I'm thinking, oh my gosh, I love this movie to death. I've watched it a million times. What is he going to do next? Well, it turns out nothing. He's made a whole bunch of mediocre movies, and that's being kind. And The Lair came out this year, or last year now, and it was awful. It was amateurish. It was the dialogue was terrible. The performances were stiff. No good scares. It was just basically a generic monster movie. I don't know what happened to Neil Marshall, but I wish he'd go back in a time machine and figure out what he did right with The Descent and kind of keep doing that, because this is just amateur hour. I'm kind of checking my notes here. Hang on one second. Me Time is a disaster. I really like Kevin Hart. I think he's a bankable comic actor. I think he's charming. He's likable. He's charismatic. And I watched some of Fatherhood. I thought he can be good dramatically speaking as well. This is just really painful. Dragging Mark Wahlberg into this was even worse. And the idea of sort of this stay-at-home dad, he's kind of emasculated. Now he's going to kind of refine his inner self. He's going to kind of bond with his old buddy. That's a great idea. And it just goes absolutely nowhere. So that one, a disaster. And, I feel like these original Netflix movies with these big stars, so often they're just utterly unwatchable. And that's a shame. Yeah. It's just a waste of resources. And I guess they've got, Netflix, at least up until now, had all the money to spend. So I think that may change. The Munsters was as bad as you thought, just a disaster. I actually thought the cast was well assembled. I don't blame them, but just Rob, I can't believe there was a time where I thought that Rob Zombie was interesting. He's awful. He doesn't know what he's doing. And the fact that you could take an average Munster episode and laugh more than you do with this movie is preposterous. And the movie looks insanely bad. There's this garish neon light. It looks like a kind of a high school stage show that they happen to capture on cinema. It's awful. Also, They, Them is one of the worst horror movies I've seen in many years. It's a woke LGBTQ conversion camp story. Yeah. Kevin Bacon, they somehow they roped him into it. Not a single scare, not a single moment of tension. There's one sweet scene where one of the characters is talking about his or her coming out of the struggles. I forget it was a guy or a gal or non-binary, but it was an affecting scene. The rest of it is disastrous. And the only good thing about They/Them is the title, which is actually pretty clever. And then I'm trying to think anything else I had here. Marry Me is just
sorry. Rick has it as like just made his top films or something.
Yeah,
like that?
Rick keeps putting it up there in his top films. We keep
Marry
making fun
Me?
of him every time. Yes.
Oh my God. I need to describe the plot if you haven't seen it. A pop star wants to marry her pop star boyfriend in a concert stage. So she's got this big event. She finds out that he has been cheating on her, so she doesn't want to go through with the marriage. So she plucks a guy out of the crowd and proposes to him, and they get married. That's the start of this movie. Who writes this absolute dreck? It's terrible. Owen Wilson looks horribly embarrassed, and Jennifer Lopez is gorgeous, and she's ageless, and that's wonderful. And I love in her movies where she's always showing you that she's gorgeous and she's ageless, and she's in little yoga outfits, and she's looking glamorous. I'm thinking, she cares so much about looking good. Can she spend 5 minutes on the script or getting a new story? It's awful. So those are mine. The other thing I enjoyed about the 2022 was every time I'd watch a god-awful movie, I'd go to my Google Calendar and go to December and say, remember to put this on my worst of the year list. And that was very helpful.
Oh, yeah. I got a rant for Marry Me when we get to that portion of the list, but I want to jump over to our good friend Sarah now. Now, I can only imagine what films you watched this year that you actually hated if Avatar was on your best list of the year. So go ahead and let the people know what you didn't like this year.
All my films that I hated this year are just movies that I just shouldn't have watched and should have known better not to watch.
Go for it.
Gotta trust your instincts.
I know. Well, okay, so first we have Persuasion, which is, I was really disappointed about that because it had such a lot of budget, and some of the cast was okay, but then they just let's make Persuasion, but let's make it bad, you know? And it's just like she's just like drinking wine and talking to the camera, and I'm just like, make
Sounds
a
like a
good
lovely
period
movie.
drama, please. Gosh, that one really annoyed me. I have Bullet Train on my worst, which is not like offensively bad. I watched it with some of my friends, and I was like, "Well, I'm not gonna enjoy this," and we didn't enjoy it, and it was just meh. And I don't really care. Like, I'm sure it's the sort of movie that works for other people, but
Yeah.
I was just like so bored by it, and Brad Pitt was just so bad. Like, poor Brad Pitt. It was really the writing of the character that made it terrible, but he was just like he really played an effeminate man really well. So, I have the Hyperions on here. I hate to pick on the Daily Wire, but it's not really an offensively bad movie, but what offended me was that they promoted it as a good movie. And I was like, this movie is not good. Why? Why are you saying that it's great? And now I don't believe you. I didn't even watch Terror on the Prairie because I figured that it was bad too, and I just couldn't bring myself to watch another terrible movie that the Daily Wire is promoting. So,
I like Terror on the Prairie, but I agree with you about that movie.
maybe I'll get around to watching it sometime. But I have Amsterdam on there. That was like the film version of not passing the Turing test. That was so bizarre that I don't even know. It was like everyone involved were aliens, and they were just pretending to be humans and had no idea how to actually be a human or tell a story. I was like, what is going on in this movie? It didn't make any sense. Honestly, Taylor Swift was my favorite part, the part where she gets knocked
Run over.
I was like,
clapped in the
whoa!
theater. I clapped in the theater.
And that was
Quick
the only
little
part that
side.
was even surprising. Go ahead.
Quick little sidebar. I took a date to that movie, and at the end of the
Oh,
movie, I had
no.
to apologize for bringing her to that film because I thought it was going to be so much better than it was.
It was so weird. And oh man, but yeah, that like I was surprised by Taylor Swift being run over, and then like nothing else in the movie made me react at all. It was just so boring. Anyway, Mr. Malcolm's List, another stupid period drama that they should never have made and should have spent their money on something else. This one was based on a book that was written modern, so it's basically a Hallmark movie in a period setting. So the plot is like really Hallmarky, and it, like I like watching period dramas because I like the culture and the society, like the rules of society that they have there.
Yeah.
And this movie is supposed to be set back then, but then it doesn't follow all those rules. It's really terrible. Like people are like slurping their soup while they're eating and doing stuff that they really just shouldn't have been doing. And if you're just going to make a movie like that, just make it a Hallmark movie. Why not? You know? And then I have Doctor Strange. I'm glad you all talked about Doctor Strange already because I do not remember it at all. Not even a little bit. Y'all were talking about Mr. Fantastic getting killed, and I couldn't remember who it was that he was fighting in that scene. I couldn't remember that Wanda was even in the movie, and she was the villain.
A lot of people died in that movie.
Who was the lady in that scene? I can't remember. Oh, right, the villain of the movie. So yeah, the worst part for that movie for me was that Benedict Cumberbatch was wearing a wig the whole time. Why? Why was he doing that?
Because he's 50 and his hair is receding.
Oh man. And then I have Moonshot, which is like an HBO movie that Cole Sprouse is in.
Oh yeah.
Who was the girl in that? The girl from To All the Boys I Loved Before. I can't remember what her name was, but I thought that she was cute in that movie, the other movie. So I was like, yeah, I'll watch this. Maybe it's like, you know, not good but enjoyable. But it made me angry. Made me really angry. Like the point of the movie was she's really smart and her boyfriend is really smart, and she is going to go to Mars and help him do something, and then he's going to come back to Earth and help her follow her dreams. And then Cole Sprouse's character is like this dumb, really, really stupid idiot that the stupidest character I've ever seen in a movie. And she ends up, yes, Lana Kander, thank you. She ends up with Cole Sprouse's character because he's stupid. Like, that's the appeal of him in the movie. It's supposed to be that he's stupid. and said, and I'm an anti-feminist, so I feel like she should have just dropped her dreams and supported her boyfriend or whatever. But it was obviously very, very feminist and not
Trash.
entertaining either. Very, yeah,
The world is
definitely trash.
trash.
HBO actually took it off of their streaming list because no one was watching it, and
Ouch.
so it doesn't exist anymore. Like, as far as I know, you can't watch it anymore. Like, it's not physical or streaming anywhere.
So there was a
apparently.
positive thing about
So
it.
that's nice. Yeah. And I have Morbius. Morbius was fun to watch, but it was just the worst. Terrible
so
movie.
bad.
But yeah, I did enjoy watching it. We were making fun of it and saying it's
was
more than
terrible.
time at stupid intervals.
And then they re-released it thinking people were actually going to watch it, and then it bombed twice.
Like, oh man,
Yeah.
people are talking about our movie. Let's re-release it.
Mhm.
It's Morbin time again. And everybody's like, no, we're not gonna go.
You
spend
know,
money
someone
on
got
this.
fired over that, right? Like someone lost their job over the decision
that.
to re-release that because
Yeah.
there's just no way that you could recover from that.
Like, everyone loves memes. Everybody loves those. So like, let's yeah. So
No.
bad.
Yeah. Okay. So my last movie is, I'm glad you did a movie that you didn't see, because my last movie is a movie that I didn't finish, and I was like, should I include this? Because I didn't finish it because it was so bad. Rosaline on HBO, and it's
God.
the true story of Rosaline from Romeo and Juliet.
Oh yeah.
And oh man.
I can't even blame you. I honestly stopped about 10 minutes into that movie. It's
I
like,
think
no, I'm
I
not
got
even gonna
like
finish.
30 minutes. I was like, I have to finish this. I want to write a pan review of it or something. And then I just couldn't. I was just like, this is going to ruin Romeo and Juliet for me.
In my review for that movie, I literally told people I stopped watching 10 minutes in and gave it a 1 out of 5. I even bothered to even to write a write-up on that review. That was terrible.
Yeah. I don't even want to think about it, but I had to put it in here because it was just everything, every scene my dad was in the room.
Yeah.
And I was just ranting at him, and he doesn't care about Romeo and Juliet. He was just sitting there going, yeah, you're so right. Yeah. But
Yeah,
you
you didn't miss anything. I can guarantee you that right there.
Yeah, I'm kind of curious as to how it ends, but I think I'd rather just not know.
It ends with somebody taking a toaster bath. That's what you want. The way you want the film to end.
Yeah.
Yeah,
All right.
so-
Well, Rob, I made you suffer through a lot of movies this year, so I'm pretty sure you have a healthy list of worst movies of the year. So go ahead and give people your worst list of 2022.
Yeah, I have to be careful here because I can't let it be the top 10 movies that annoyed me the most, because that, it would be a little bit different and might still be somewhat similar. But no, I really did try to think of the 10 worst movies I saw this year. So number 10 is Nope, Jordan Peele's third theatrical release. I still think Jordan Peele's best work was done on Mad TV and Key and Peele, in Drag. So I think he's talented. I just don't know that he's a great director. Get Out was really solid. I think he should try to go back to that or something, but because his last two films have not worked.
Using race in the context of a horror worked once, and he's been trying to do it ever since, and it has not worked since.
Yeah. Well, just if you don't mind me going on a little tangent real quick
Yeah.
about that too, but one of the things is too, in the reason I like Get Out, the first half of Get Out, it's interesting, but that wasn't really what sold me on the movie. What sells me on the movie is once he's in the house and he wakes out of the hypnotism and everything, the movie switches. And if you didn't have all the previous context, it literally is a movie about a black man stalking a white family through a house and murdering them all. And so it's actually I was like, oh my gosh, the horror movie would normally be the scary black guy kills a white family. But because we have so much context, we get these people have to die. They deserve everything they're getting. And so I was like, that's really cool to play on the concept of that's normally the perception of it's not, but that would be the perception of the bad guy is the scary black dude murdering this family, but no, they're pieces of garbage and they're terrible people and they just did something heinous and he's punishing them for it. I love that subversion. I don't think he's been able to recapture that because, yeah, like you said, it's been about race and injustice and how do we like combat it and deal with it and how do we like make society a better place. And I'm like, you don't need to tell anybody about that. The concept itself is interesting. And if you wanted to do an alien film or a film like them about like race and about being people injustice and stuff, stop telling the audience what to think. Just make an interesting concept. Like Twilight Zone didn't have to tell everybody what the concept was. And I think a lot of his films, he's trying to do like a longer version of a Twilight Zone episode, but then he ends up he falls into preaching in the third act of his movies. And then after that, like the whole concept is done. It's toasted because you can't even enjoy what could be. It's just like you're being told what should be. And I think I think somebody got in his ear about it because the fact that his first movie wasn't like that and the rest of his movies have been, I think, are very telling. But I totally agree with you. Like, yeah, he needs to get back to what he did with Get Out, or he needs to get back to doing comedy because right now what he's doing is not working and they just keep giving him films.
And Daniel Kaluuya is so laconic as the cowboy main character. He's just kind of very dull. It's not his fault. Daniel Kaluuya is a very good actor. I've seen him do really good work, but it just doesn't give him much to do here. And then Keke Palmer's a bit of a token character with the whole, I'm sleeping with that lawyer kind of thing, nonsense thrown in there. And it's just like, do we need to know that she's gay? Really? Like, does it matter? So, whatever. It's not a good movie. And I didn't really know what Jordan Peele was even trying to say. Something along the lines of like the exploitation of animals in Hollywood and, just, whatever. But I didn't think it was very good. And it was a disappointing theater watch. Number 9 is Beast. I didn't think it was a terrible movie necessarily, but some of the story elements, like the poach, them being like having to set the good humans to the bad humans, and the poachers kind of go to these ridiculous lengths of like demonizing these characters, and it's like, okay, I guess you have to have a villain because the lion's not a trying to survive a lion attack isn't enough. We need to like demonize these these poacher characters too. So I just I didn't think that was very good. It was a really bad theater watch. Scream, I have to go back to the fifth Scream movie with we are so past it being a interesting comment on the horror movie at this point. Like the first Scream movie that came out in '96 was okay. And this one was just this like expositional dialogue about what you would do in a horror movie. And just, it had all of this sort of framework that didn't make any sense or didn't work as a movie, and is just sort of like talking about the structure of its own, of its own creation. And so I just thought it was a giant mess. It was a giant disaster of a movie. And Jacob, I know Jacob is not a fan of it either. I know that, but it had a lot of love on social media. That's what drove me crazy, was seeing the responses to people who had watched the same movie and thought it was brilliant. And I was just like, what movie did you watch?
It's like Glass Onion.
So
like bodies.
Yeah. And I guess it made money. So it doesn't matter. But I was surprised that more people didn't find it a complete, a movie that just completely doesn't work. Not okay. I would have never watched this movie if it had not been given to us for a movie review night. Look, I think it's interesting to look at the whole millennial boy cried wolf kind of scenario, because I think a lot of millennials traffic in that kind of behavior. I'm more important than I really am. Like, look at what a good person I am. Look at all this virtue signaling I can do because I believe in the right causes. All of that kind of lines up with this girl who says that she's in Paris during a terrorist attack, and she isn't, and she gains all this fame. The worst part of the movie, though, is the sort of virtue signaling by the girl she tries to befriend. And I think it's surrounding gun violence. Like the girl had gone through like a school shooting or something. It's just a really terrible sort of like setup and execution. And it's all there to sort of shame the main character, the girl that lies about, being in Paris at the time of his terrorist attack. It's all about just shaming the white girl who, makes the story about herself. And look at how heroic this other girl is who's fighting for a noble cause. It's just, vomit worthy. It induces a sickness upon watching. So, not a good movie. But that's what 2022 brought us. Amsterdam. Jesus, this movie was so embarrassing because I know the actual history behind the story. Smedley Butler and the attempted fascist takeover of our government. I mean, it's a very interesting story, and they tried to make it about a January 6th narrative. They tried to make it about, fascism and those forces overtaking our government, when the real story is so much more interesting and so much more relevant to the time it took place in I believe, the 1930s. So I thought it was just a giant miss by David O. Russell, who, again, is a talented filmmaker. He's made stuff I enjoy. American Hustle, when it came out, I remember critics were all behind it as an Oscar bait movie. And then as more and more people watched it, it was like, oh, this really isn't a good movie. But I've always liked it. And comparatively, it's a much better movie than Amsterdam was. So, and you have this giant cast, and you don't have one notable character. It's just sort of a lot of silliness over a 2-hour runtime. Just, I am amazed how little content there was to that movie, and how they would use that historical moment to such a ridiculous degree, and trying to make it about January 6th. So that was a really big pan for me. I was hoping it would be one of those movies that kind of saved 2022, and it ended up being one of the worst. All right. Black Panther 2. It's been talked about already, so I'm not going to go too much into it. But I just didn't think they had very many ideas to execute this movie. Chadwick Boseman had unfortunately passed away, and I just don't think that they had a direction for the movie. And good for them for pushing Angela Bassett for, Best Supporting Actress?
Yeah.
I mean, I can't see that happening, but, crazier things have happened, I suppose, in Hollywood. Thor: Love and Thunder. This was a movie that I can't believe I sat all the way through. I can't believe they got Christian Bale to do it. I can't believe it was made. It's almost all done on a green screen, sort of airless CGI. I mean, they cut off Thor's balls and basically say anybody can be Thor, which apparently they're doing all now through the MCU. They're replacing the male hero with some female version and saying, oh, hey, and anybody can be these characters, these heroes. Not to mention that it just is creatively embarrassing. Oh my gosh, look how embarrassed Thor is being naked in front of everybody. Look at Russell Crowe being, this gross character in wherever they are. I forget what city they visit, but I am almost speechless at this point because it was so bad. And the fact that they put it out and thought it would be something people wanted, it just boggles my mind. The Woman King. The Woman King was, I had no expectations about this movie, and even ignoring the real life controversy over who these people were, I just felt like it was they were sort of like running through the material without much of it sort of landing, without much being without it resonating with an audience. So it feels like a fabricated kind of historical drama, and tokenism and like beating the chest and saying women can do anything men can do. It's a little tired at this point. It's a little played out, and when you incorporate the real life aspect of it, it's even more embarrassing. So it ends up kind of occupying the third spot. Number 2 is Bros. Bros, they really missed an opportunity to actually have something funny, something human, something genuine to say, hey, gay people are just like straight people. We want normalcy, and we want to settle down, and we want to have conventional relationships. Nope. Nope. We're going to have this very one-sided view of gay culture that's very hedonistic and driven by, the number of partners you sleep with. And one of my favorite critics, Bret Easton Ellis, thought it was a disgusting movie. So he's a gay man, and he just was like, yeah, this is not representative of like who I am or what I've experienced or like what I've enjoyed about gay culture. And I just it was a very hard movie to sit through. It wasn't funny, and it was supposed to be a comedy. So I agree that the Banshees of Inisherin is probably the comedy of the year. And it's pretty dark. It's a darkly comic movie. You know what I mean? Like I posted on Twitter. It's like, hey, you know what's a barrel of laughs? The Banshees of Inisherin. A man cuts off his fingers and throws it at its friend's house. So that's the kind of year it's been. And number one, Glass Onion. I talked about it already a little bit, and certainly Mike talked about it. I don't know if there's a movie that has more contempt for its audience than this movie, and trying to constantly tell them, who to value and who to throw in the trash, and who's worthy of criticism and who's not, and who's the hero. And the hero of the movie is somebody that literally throws, or basically one of those people that throws paint on famous paintings at museums around the world. It's like somebody who wants to destroy the Mona Lisa. That's your hero. That's the kind of thing I just want to throw out the window, because it's such a slap in the face of anything valuing Western civilization and the sort of like artistic contributions given to over the last thousands of years. So that movie was just a giant and creative failure.
Well, I mean, I can tell you this: I love some of you guys' worst stuff missing, but I love that you guys mentioned them, not the films itself. I have my own top 10 list. Some of them have already been listed on here, so I won't go into too much detail of them, but I do have a couple of them that I do want to mention, do want to go on rants of. Let's start with my number 10 worst movie of the year, Halloween Ends. I don't know what the hell this movie was. This is probably the worst trilogy for a modern horror film I've seen. They decided to spend the first 90 minutes of this film on a love story that they only built in like the third movie of a trilogy on two characters you don't care about. Michael Myers only shows up an hour into the film, and I think he only kills like two people throughout the entire movie. And then this Tort, who we're supposed to care about, becomes the new Michael Myers, but then he dies, so that whole thing was pointless to begin with. And then Jamie Lee Curtis throws Michael Myers into a giant wood chipper or something like that, and the film ends. So that was a lovely waste of time. I don't know why we had to have another Halloween trilogy that pretty much threw away all the other movies, but that was a great time for everyone involved. That's number 10. Number 9 is a film.
Real quick, I just want to say, because like I agree with you wholeheartedly. I didn't watch this last movie because didn't they establish in the second movie at the very end that Michael's unkillable?
Well, that was the whole thing, right? So then this third movie was supposed to be like on the same night as the second one, but then because of COVID, they decided, we're gonna put this like 5 years in the end. So Michael's apparently just been like living in a sewer week because he hasn't been killing people as much as he should have been. So he has to he touches like Corey, and then Corey creates like the evil for something like that. It makes no sense whatsoever. Nothing about this whole trilogy makes any sense. If you watch the third movie, you're probably going to be even more confused and angry by the time you see it. So yeah, imagine this. It actually got worse. So.
Oh my God, that's really bad. I had to know. I was like, hold on, did they even address? Oh my God, never mind. I kind of wish I wouldn't have asked now. Oh wow.
Wow. Bad movie. Number 9, Don't Worry Darling. This was the Olivia Wilde complete mess of a movie where everything about the kind of the off screen drama was more interesting than the movie itself, because she was sleeping with Harry Styles, and then she got served like child custody papers, and then her own co-star wouldn't even talk to her while promoting the film. And then you watch the movie and it's all about this fictional 1950s town where women are being oppressed by men, and you come to find out that the big reveal is that the whole thing is a computer simulation, and that the main character is actually this miserable woman who works 60 hours a day at a hospital, and then her boyfriend is the bad guy because he kidnapped her and tried to give her a better life, and then that's the end of the movie. So yeah, Don't Worry Darling, Olivia Wilde, total waste of time. And by the way, that's the reason why Shazam 2 was pushed back, because Warner Brothers had to promote this movie rather than give you Shazam 2. So thank that film for that as well. Number 8, Thor: Love and Thunder. I don't think there's anything more I have to say about David Cohen and his style of humor and comedy. This is a horrible movie. It cost $250 million to make. It's all blue screen, and somehow Christian Bale is wasted not once but twice in 2 big movies. So this is by far the worst MCU film of the year, and none of them were that good to begin with. So, but hey, at least now Natalie Portman is dead again, so there's that. Number 7, Marry Me. Jennifer Lopez gets married to a pop singer who's like 30 years younger than her, and then he cheats on her. So then she has to marry Owen Wilson, who looks like he wants to die throughout the entire course of this movie. And then Sarah Silverman is also in it, so you know the movie's not going to be funny. And I don't know how Rick thinks this movie is good. It's an awful movie. It's all to stroke J-Lo's ego. Why does it exist? I don't know, but it does. So that's number 7. Number 6 is The Menu, which I absolutely hated. And I think even Rob tried to like pull me off the ledge on this one because I absolutely hated it when I first saw it. This is one of those dumb, pretentious, rich people are bad, and then this like homely looking chick who's completely unlikable is like our de facto protagonist because she's the only, I guess, poor in the entire film. But nothing makes any sense. I don't know why all these guys just went crazy and evil. Then the ending is dumb. It's like all you have to do is get takeout and leave, and they just let you leave. And that's the end of the film. Why didn't you do that like hours ago? Why did anyone else think to take their food and take it to go? That probably would have been a better ending, but no, we didn't get that at all. The Menu is dumb, and it sucks. Scream, number 5. This was my worst movie of the year for at least like the first 6 months. Literally, there's no reason for it to exist. They killed off all the older characters to give them more diverse counterparts. And then the ending is that the villains of the film are quote unquote toxic fan bases. So we still can't get over the fact that people don't like The Last Jedi. We're still putting this in modern movies 5 years after the fact. It's like the movie sucked. Get over it. People are never going to like it. It's like, why are we still doing this? And then we're going to get another one of these films in a couple of months. So yeah, great. Scream. Lovely. Number 4, which is a film that Christian brought up, which I'm glad he did, Bodies, 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 because for about a good 3-week period, this was my worst film of 2022. I didn't like a second of this movie. Like literally the opening scene is like a minute-long lesbian kiss where I'm just like, okay, is there like any point to this movie? Like, what are we doing here? Pete Davidson is in the film, and I just want to like hang myself every time he's on screen. None of the characters are likable. I guess it's supposed to be some kind of like parody of Gen Z made by millennials who have no right to make fun of Gen Z whatsoever. So I was like, I don't even understand like what the point of this movie is. And then you come to find out that though the ending is everyone's just dumb. There was really no killer to begin with, so everyone's just a bunch of freaking morons. So great, another waste of time. Bodies, Bodies, Bodies. Number 4. The Woman King, number 3. There's no surprise here. They tried to take a real life tribe and repaint them as like female heroes, when in reality they were like one of the worst slave traders in human history, doing like super brutal things to like, you know, children and the people of their own village, by the way. But in this film, because they're supposed to be we're against colonialism or some nonsense like that, they try to portray them as heroes. This movie was just dry. It sucked. There was nothing good or positive about it, and it tried to rewrite history, which annoyed the crap out of me. So that one is my number 3. Not Okay is my number 2 movie of the year. I know some of you guys may not have seen Not Okay. Only me and Rob probably have seen it. This film is so unbearably bad. It's about a woke white woman living in New York. Nobody likes her, so she lies about being in Paris during a terrorist attack. She gets famous. The whole thing blows up in her face. And the ending to this movie is like literally like a 5-minute spoken word poem about how terrible of a person she is. And then she just gets up and leaves the theater, and that's the ending of the movie. So the ending of the movie is that there's no redemption for you whatsoever. You're just a piece of shit, and you're gonna die a piece of shit, and then end credits. So
Wow.
I was that one to me. I didn't think anything was gonna beat that movie until I saw my number 1, which of course is Bros, my number 1 worst movie of the year. The movie that got me banned from Letterboxd because I did a review for Bounding in the Comics, which is still up to this day. I reposted the exact same review on Letterboxd, and they banned me for inciting hate because I pointed out how it was an absolutely degenerate piece of crap. You have, like I said, Rob said you could have made that film say, hey, we're just as normal as straight people. Instead, you want to do polyamorous dating and thruples and gender reveal gay orgies, which is a real thing in the film. I'm not even making that up. That actually happened. The whole point of the film is that they have sex like 7 different times with like 10 different men throughout the course of the movie. And then at the ending is that, hey, do you want to go steady for 3 months and then reassess? It's like, then what have we been doing for the last 2 hours of this movie? And then somehow, in the course of this film, you tried to make a case for grooming kids into this relationship that you've just shown in this entire movie is completely degenerate. It's like, what the hell are we doing here? Is this what Hollywood has come to? I feel great that this film absolutely bombed and it blew up in his face, and Billy Eichner had a meltdown on social media because his film sucked and it deserved the bomb. But it's like, what the hell has movies come to if this is our new form of entertainment? This is my number one worst film of the year. Nothing topped this film as far as the amount of hate and just passionate hate that I had towards this movie. That's my top 10 list of the year. I don't know if you guys have any other films that you want to throw on there. Amsterdam was obviously bad. The Princess was bad. Glass Onion was bad. And then that Deep Water movie with Ana de Armas and Ben Affleck where she's cheating on him.
Water or whatever.
Yeah, where she's cheating on him and then he's allowing men to sleep with his wife, but then he's killing them after they sleep with his wife. It's like some weird cuckold type relationship thing. And it's like, I don't know who this movie was supposed to be for, but those are all my worst movies of the year, unless you guys got some honorable mentions for just absolutely bad movies for 2022.
Just one, Babylon, I watched recently, and it's
Whew.
it's such a weird train wreck. I don't even know what it spends most of the movie saying how awful, terrible, ridiculous, gross, demeaning, dehumanizing Hollywood is. And then it ends with this love letter to movies. It's like, did you see the first 2/3 of the movie?
Just real quick, the first 2 minutes of the movie is literally some like fat obese man being pissed on at an orgy party. It's like,
and someone else getting elephant dung sprayed aggressively in their face. And can we make movies under 2 hours, please? Please. Unless you got Thanos in there, I don't want to see any more movies that are over 2 hours. I'm sorry.
Oh, you didn't enjoy being there for what, 3 hours and 5 minutes plus 20 minutes of
every other movie. And the I Want to Dance with Somebody was almost 2.5 hours. And I didn't hate it, but like, stop. Just make a 2 hour movie, get out.
Yeah, that's my biggest thing about movies that came out this year is that even some of the ones that I liked are just way too long. Like, I don't know what happened to editors in Hollywood, but we need to get much better editors because some of these movies have no business being as long as they are. So
yeah, and I just wanted to say there's a couple of movies I have not seen from 2022. Babylon's one of them. The Whale, Emancipation. The Will Smith movie.
Yeah.
There's this movie called After Sun, which is by a director named Charlotte Wells that I've heard a lot of good things about, but I haven't seen it, so I can't comment on it. So there's a couple movies there that I haven't seen, so I can't consider them best or worst. But I can't imagine that I'm missing a whole lot. So
yeah. And what you all said about Halloween Ends, it should have been on my list. I just can't believe they make a Halloween movie that caps the trilogy and they spend most of the movie ignoring Jamie Lee Curtis and The Shape. And Jamie Lee Curtis, she has enough name recognition and she has enough cachet to say, guys and gals, go rewrite the story. This isn't even about me and Michael Myers. What have you done? I will not be in this movie. Like, I would love for her to have done that, but she didn't.
It's like they didn't understand this is the conclusion to a trilogy about two characters that we've cared about for like the last 40 years. And you focus none of the story on these two characters. Like, what are we doing?
And the end of the movie, they go, oh my gosh, we got to make these two characters fight to the death. Roll camera. I mean, unbelievable.
Well, one more thing about that too. They didn't even actually change the ending to the movie because the ending to the movie, she kills Michael, and then all of a sudden everyone in town goes on like a parade with like Michael's body as they take him to the wood chipper. I was like, why is this doing this? It's like, oh yeah, because this whole film was supposed to end in one night. Remember, this whole trilogy was supposed to be in one night. So at the conclusion of this night of terror that Michael was supposed to have, if the whole town was like, yeah, we're gonna throw his body and we're never gonna see Michael again, that would have actually made sense. But the problem is you fast forward the movie 5 years into the future to where at that point it doesn't make any sense now. It's like, okay, who cares that you killed Michael 5 years after he had terrorized the entire town?
Yeah, that's so weird. Honestly, like, I don't have any more honorable mentions, but part of the reason is this is one of the first years that I haven't gone out of my way to watch movies, even movies that are considered bad. I used to just go see movies, even if they had bad, reviews and stuff, because I wanted to see it for my own merit. Even people that are like, this movie's a disaster, I'd go see them because sometimes, like, you can even enjoy a disaster. Movies have become so insufferable. Like, yes, they're too, like, bad movies are too long. I don't mind. I'm somebody that likes longer movies. I like going and feeling like I got my money's worth. If a movie's 2.5 hours, I'm like, yay, awesome. I feel like I'm gonna get my money's worth. Not anymore. Now it's just like they're just that long for no reason. And I think this last year and this year specifically more so is the first year I've been so burnt out on going and seeing bad movies, because it feels like for every one movie I see that's good, there's 15 bad movies that I'm going to see.
Yeah.
And there's no argument, there's no merit to these movies. That's the thing. It's one thing if like it's poorly directed, or the acting is good but the story is weak, or the story is amazing but it was miscast, or things like that we used to have criticisms for. Now the movies are just they're poorly acted, they're poorly written, they're poorly directed, and you go like, you spent $300 million on this movie. Where did all that money go? Why does it look so bad? Or why am I not entertained by things? Huh?
Money laundering.
Money laundering. I mean, it's got to be something. So like, just real quick, I'll finish this rant. But so this is like the first time that's ever really been a thing for me, where I'll see movies and I go, I don't even know if I want to watch this. It's just not even worth my time. And that really sucks as somebody that loves movies and used to watch everything I could get my hands on, because now it's just like I've lost the enjoyment of it and don't know, like, will I ever get that back anymore? So go ahead, Christian. I know you're going to say something.
No, I'm good.
No, I was going to say just real
you were going to say something.
Yeah, so like for instance, one of the movies I haven't seen from 2022 that's supposed to be critically acclaimed is Women Talking, and like, I'm sorry, that just the title alone is just like, okay, are you trying to get people to come see your movie? Or you know what I mean? And it's like, and don't get me wrong, because it could be good in terms of what it's about, but it's probably going to be another like victim narrative. These women in the Mennonite community, this like religious leader is, guilty of violated, some kind of sexual violations, and it wants to be investigated, and it's fine, but it's one of those Oscar Bates, really serious kind of movies, and Hollywood seems to really be into lecturing the audience right now. Instead of trying to provide some form, because it doesn't have to be complete escapism. It can be about real things, but still have a human energy and a human sensibility to it. And a lot of these things feel dour and, self-serious, and we have to contemplate things without any kind of enjoyment, without any kind of spirit that's about creativity and life and vibrance.
It's eat your vegetables.
Yeah. They forgot that, hey, people actually pay money to watch this stuff. It's not like a required like learning assignment at university. So you actually got to get people to want to watch your movies.
And it didn't make my top 10 worst, but She Said has some of just some of the stuff in there. It's not a badly made movie, because like it's very watchable, but the tone that is taken is ridiculous, where it's like, oh, Hollywood's going to tell us about the dangers of Harvey Weinstein when they perpetuated his career for 30 years, or they didn't know about it. Okay, really?
You know who's one of the producers in that movie? Brad Pitt.
Brad Pitt.
Guess who knew? Brad Pitt.
Yep.
For years.
That's tough to swallow. Stuff like that's just really tough to swallow. And then like them being chased down by the black SUV is a little like, come on, really?
I liked it a lot, but there were like 3 or 4 mini scenes. I'm like, ooh, that's...
Yeah. Well, Sarah, anything you wanted to go before we wrap this one up?
The only thing I can think of is someone in the comments said that Moonfall was a bad movie, and I want to say no.
Oh, is that the Russian Chinese movie that came out earlier this year?
It's the one where the moon gets really close to the Earth.
Yeah.
Okay? And this is why it's good, because the moon gets really close to the Earth. It's a good movie.
You just want to see destruction. That's all it is. Well, look, we've come to the end of our show here. Obviously, Rob is forcing us to leave early because he wants to go see his Houston Oilers lose to the Jacksonville Jaguars in about 30 minutes. So let's go ahead and give everyone a chance to promote their stuff. Thank you, everyone, for joining us here on this show. So I'm going to start off with Rob here, who's rocking the Oilers jersey right now. So, tell everybody where we can find you, Rob.
Yeah, absolutely. So you can check out my Twitter, Rob_Motto. I'm pretty obnoxious, but I talk about movies a lot, and I'm going to be starting a John Woo retrospective here with A Better Tomorrow and ending with Face Off. So I'm looking forward to that starting next week. And then I'm going to be watching Megan and reviewing that and I'm also going to be watching. I think it's called the Pale Blue Eye, the Scott Cooper Christian Bale movie on Netflix. Hoping that's good. So starting off 2023, with those two movies and writing reviews on them, and then hopefully I will be writing reviews for every movie that we that we cover on Monday Movie Night Reviews. So I'm looking forward to that. Looking forward to getting back to writing. So I'll be posting that on my Twitter. So check it out.
All right, then let's move over to our good buddy Sarah, who's joined us twice in 1 week. So it's almost like a record here. So, hey, what you got coming up? Yeah.
Nothing really. Just, follow me on Twitter. I tweet about movies. And that's pretty much it. I don't know. I don't have anything else to say. I had fun.
We're just going to keep the camera on you and make it very uncomfortable for the next couple of days. All right, then. Our good buddy Christian Toto, who I'm glad he took some time out of his busy schedule to join us here for this show and talk about some good movies. So we obviously got your site here. Is there anything else you got coming up that you want people to know about?
Yeah, my podcast is being rebooted. Hollywood and Toto podcast should be in early February. So look forward to that. And then my work is also at Outkick.com and the Daily Wire.
Nice. And hopefully a certain somebody will be on that podcast in the near future. Not saying, anything, just saying maybe one of these guys here should be on the show. Just throwing it out there.
A distinct possibility.
And then our good buddy Epic Mike, who joined us here tonight. Thank you for taking time out of your days for your busy schedule. I know you got a lot of stuff coming up, so go ahead and tell people where they can find more of you.
Oh yeah, so we'll start at the top. This is usually a whole thing. Primarily right now on Twitch. You can find me there, twitch.tv, _epic_Mike. You can find me on Twitter under the same handle. You can catch me. I'm involved a lot with Geeks and Gamers, so you can catch me on Mondays on Geeks and Gamers Tabletop, our Rhyme of the Frost Maiden. We're doing a campaign where the party has gone completely evil and off the rails, and the GM is doing his best to keep us from massacring the entirety of the continent we're on right now. You can also catch me every Tuesday on Tuesday Night's Main Event with Geeks and Gamers. And then, the biggest thing right now, keep your eyes open for Epicverse Studios, epicverse.tv. You can go over there and get some merch, and you can kind of keep an eye on what we got going on over there. Later this year, we're going to have a really big announcement for what we've been working on. We're really excited to show people stuff. The biggest thing is, right now Hollywood's not doing their job, and that means that somebody else needs to do it. So we're stepping up. We're trying to make some content for people that you want to see, that you're going to enjoy. But yeah, make sure you also, subscribe here, come back here. It was a great time. I really appreciate getting invited to anything, because I'm just a guy yelling at people on the internet, and I always love being able to meet other people that are also doing the same thing and enjoying the same thing. So that's what I got. Yeah.
Well, speaking of guys yelling on the internet, I guess we can wrap this one up with me. So let you guys know what we got coming up here on the YouTube channel, on Twitch, and on Twitter, everything we got coming up. So this Monday, Rick will be back. He'll be back joining us. I think we'll have to give him a little time to talk about his best and worst movies of the year, even though we really don't want to. But, I mean, hey, that's what it is. And so we're also going to be reviewing the film Megan, our first film of 2023. Some of us have already seen it already, so you'll get to know some of our thoughts about the film when it comes out on this Monday night. So Monday night at 9 p.m. is when we do that show. On Tuesday, we're going to be doing episode 31 of the Barroom Podcast. Myself, Cassie will be back with us. Rob will be back with us. Hopefully we can get Sarah back here for another show. Our good buddy Orange Hat will be here. C.S. Johnson and all the regulars will be back with us next week to talk about the biggest news in the world of entertainment. Still then, I'm working on a couple of things for Battling in the Comics right now, so you should be seeing some of my end of list on the site pretty soon. I'm not sure what's going on with the Black Pill stream right now, because we got a couple of issues going on behind the scenes right now. So we may be back maybe next week. We'll try to figure it out over the course of the next couple of weeks, but we're working on getting that back up and running as well. And then until then, I mean, that's pretty much all that I got coming up. I think our next UFC stream is either next Saturday or the Saturday after that. I have to go see the exact date, but I think it's somewhere in that line. I think it may be in 2 weeks. So we'll just have a bunch of guys on here drinking beer, talking about fights as well. So that's a pretty fun adventure. Quick little shout out to Nickweiser, obviously, and Meffistoe, who joined us earlier in the show. They're great guys. Go sub to their channels. Their links were posted earlier. Great dudes. Definitely want to check out more of their content if you haven't already. And then for everyone who joined us in the chat, all of our regulars, Duke Dukem, Spencer, who was here with us, joining us here tonight. We have Al My Feelings, who was also in the chat with us. We have our good buddy Alex versus Evil. All of our regulars. If I haven't mentioned you, Volume Dealer. If I haven't mentioned you, I appreciate all of you guys being here. I appreciate everyone here on our panel for joining us here tonight for this very fun discussion on the best and worst movies of the year. And well, we're here in 2023, so maybe I'll watch another 130 movies. We can do this list next year. What we hated and what we didn't like. So for everyone, we'll see you guys on Monday when we do our movie review stream. For everyone here in the panel, thank you for joining us. Wave to the folks. We're out of here. We're going to hit Josh's favorite part of the stream, where we just hit StreamYard and say goodbye. So until next time, see you later. Adios. Bye-bye. You can go home now.